One Piece Heaven Defying, Awakening the Dark Lord Part 7. The Revolutionary Army was coming in another direction. No way! Are you going to use ancient weapons to destroy Future Island? Where are the world government and marine? The Western Army commander, Mori, was a burly man, but at this moment he was a little stiff. Other senior officials were also confused. I didn't expect the world government to stage such a scene. Killing each other? If they all die, the world government and the marine will be ruined, and our work will be easier to carry out in the future, Betty said excitedly while biting her cigar. But she immediately realized that something was wrong and looked at Long cautiously. The chief's father and son are both on the island. The dragon stood in the sea breeze with his cloak on, staring at the sky, feeling powerless. He wanted to stop all this. But that was Uranus' attack. Who can stop it? It's almost like seeking death. Although he is a revolutionary, he is different from Garp's camp. But he couldn't bear to see Garp and Luffy die. Luffy! Old man! Damn it! That bastard Yim! Sabo roared angrily, but his voice was soon drowned out by the howling sea breeze. Ace is dead. But he couldn't protect Luffy. Sabo was in great pain at this moment. Especially seeing Marco's moves on the screen just now was like seeing Ace. But he couldn't do anything. He could only watch his brother die in front of him once again. Straw Hat Boy! Ivankov murmured in a low voice, but his eyes were fixed on the figure who slowly raised his arms in the picture transmitted by the broadcast bug. If he is really the adult from that year, maybe there is still hope, he thought silently in his heart. Ivankov recognized Yuen, but he didn't dare to acknowledge him. It's hard to imagine that a person hasn't changed at all over the decades. But if that's true, then Yuen survived the attack by Uranus. Future Island. The storm intensifies. Thunder roared suddenly. Crashed with a loud bang. The ultimate destructive force burst out in an instant, pouring down like a lake bursting its dam. Everyone was in despair. Jialinsheng's face was pale. His lips were trembling and he couldn't speak. Kaido and Big Mom both looked at Yun subconsciously. They knew that their only hope of survival was to see if Yun could handle Uranus' attack again. Yun should be able to block it, right? Golden Lion Shiki murmured, with a little confidence but not much. When the first Pluton was being built, an accident occurred and the energy-accumulating Pluton exploded. The terrifying destructive force was no weaker than Pluton's normal attack and was enough to destroy the entire Vientiane Island. But the storm was suppressed by Yuen himself. In the end, only Pluton was reduced to ruins, while Vientiane Island was not affected at all. Logically speaking, the Golden Lion Shiki should not panic. But this time Uranus' attack was much stronger than the previous explosion, which made him lose confidence. Charlotte didn't seem to be under any pressure and looked very calm. He could be said to be the calmest person in the room except for Yuen. In his heart, Yuen is the omnipotent god. What about the ancient weapon Uranus? There are 2 Pluton statues in Vientiane Island. My father set a goal for me at the beginning. When I can resist Pluton's attack, I can go to the sea again. Unfortunately, I haven't achieved the goal yet. Charlotte shook her head, regretfully. If I were strong enough, I wouldn't need my dad to help me at this time. This is also the source of his confidence. My father set a goal for me to fight against ancient weapon. How could he not be able to do it himself? 5th gear. Luffy instantly entered the awakening form, surrounded by white flames. He threw his strongest punch, blasting it into the sky to meet the storm. As expected of Luffy, he didn't give up even at this moment. But his strength is not enough to resist the full force of Uranus. Just as he was about to be swept into the storm of destruction, a force suddenly dissolved his awakened form, forcing Luffy back to normal form, and in the blink of an eye he was back on the ground. Ah? What's going on? Luffy was confused. How did I suddenly return to where I was? It's like a dream. At this time, everyone felt something and turned their gaze to look at the figure with one arm behind his back. It was Yun who transferred Luffy back. Facing Uranus' attack, Yun suddenly hesitated. What move should I use? Under the future island, the largest Poseidon class was pulling the repaired Noah's Ark, hovering on the seabed, waiting for the Emperor to illuminate. Noah's Ark is loaded with Pluton. The way of reincarnation on Yun's waist rang violently. Master, let me do it! Let me do it! He requested excitedly. Yun thought for a second. He raised his arm and waved it gently. Pluton was not used, and reincarnation path was not used. He just waved his arm casually to calm a cloud. The fierce and violent thunder and lightning storm clouds in the sky suddenly became quiet. Countless terrifying roars erupted in the clouds, but no sound could be heard below. The momentum is gone. On future island below, no one could feel any fluctuations in Uranus' power. The pitch-black thunder that fell with a loud bang shattered in midair. It was clearly a terrifying scene of destruction, but there was no movement or sound. The people below were stunned, and confused. Uranus' attack was like a huge curtain in the sky, playing a scene without sound. What happened? Am I starting to have hallucinations before I die? Jialanxing looked at the sky in horror, his body and mind cold. What did Yun do? His brain had completely shut down at this moment, and he had given up thinking. Nanny! Luffy's eyes popped out and his jaw dropped to the ground. This scene left him stunned. Are you dreaming? Or already dead? Everyone, no one's brain is still functioning, some people even forgot to breathe. Garp wanted to dig out his eyes. He didn't believe what he saw was real. Uranus' destructive attack was blocked in midair without any warning. The instigator. Yuan. He just waved his arms. How the hell is this possible? However, a scene that shocked and devastated everyone happened. The destructive thunderstorm in the sky. Without any warning, it began to dissipate. Space isolation. Yuan has mastered the ability fused from the space-type Devil Fruit ability. Unbelievable. Extremely powerful. The pinnacle of spatial ability. Completely block all the power of Uranus. This is the absolute control over the power of this world. Time and space annihilation. Thousands of energies instantly exploded in the forbidden space. Thunder, wind, water, fire, sand, space, time. Countless abilities turned into energy and surged out. The thundercloud storm condensed by Uranus' attack was dissolved into the most primitive energy molecules and dissipated. With the naked eye. It was like a stain in the sky that was quickly washed away. But everyone knows it in their hearts. Shit stains. That's Uranus's full-strength attack. The clouds roll and unroll, composing a wonderful scene between heaven and earth. The thunderclouds were surging, but they were like rippling ice water, melting quietly. Everything dissipated into nothingness. Uranus attack? Storm of destruction? It's like it doesn't exist at all. Yun combines all the abilities of the Devil Fruit, as well as the power to extend and evolve the abilities of the Devil Fruit. It can be said that he truly controls the original power of the world. Ancient weapon is powerful, but it cannot escape from the scope of the world. Uranus attack was blocked. I don't know who shouted first, but the whole audience was instantly excited. He just destroyed Uranus attack like that. Cyborg Kong looked numb and distraught. The scene in the sky had a huge impact on world government and marine. Uranus, the destroyer. They were even ready to die. What he saw was a scene more horrifying than hell. Yun waved his hand, and the world-destroying attack dissipated on its own. Waving your hands casually is like driving away flies and slapping mosquitoes. But that's not a fly. Not a mosquito either. It's the ancient weapon Uranus that can destroy the world and charge a powerful attack. Don't mention these people present. Even if Rox was resurrected and Joyboy reappeared, there was absolutely no way they could block this attack. But Yuan did it. It is still the most incredible and shocking way to dissolve the destructive force. How is this possible? How is this possible? Garp kept mumbling, looking confused. He didn't even realize what was happening. It was like a dream, disappeared without a trace. How could this happen? How could his power be so terrifying? Jean Guo was gritting his teeth and almost collapsed. He was still fighting with Marco. The shock wave and the immortal fire had not separated even just now. The battle between Jean Guo and Marco is bound to end in death. The Uranus attack dissipated, the Sengoku survived, and the elite of the Marine and world government were saved. This should have been a relaxing thing, but the Sengoku didn't relax at all. Because this shows that Yun's power is beyond ancient weapon. Terrible and bottomless. No one will be his opponent. Thinking of this horrible result, Jean Guo wished he had died under Uranus attack just now, and didn't want to face Yun. So scary. How to shake this? Is he a human being? Akainu's pupils trembled and his mind collapsed. He also did not feel the joy of surviving the disaster. Because he still has to face Yun, who is more terrifying than ancient weapon. He even had the same idea as Jean Guo. Better to die under Uranus attack. What's going on? Is Uranus attack an illusion? Kizaru was confused. His hands and feet were still a little numb. Although he said this, he knew very well in his heart that when Uranus attack locked onto this place just now, he didn't even think of turning into a flash of light and escaping because he felt that he was doomed. No matter how fast you go, you can't escape Uranus attack. Kizaru, who had been slacking off all his life, has completely given up and is waiting to die. But he didn't die. Kizaru was completely confused at this time. With Un's terrifying ability and incredible strength, does he need to use Pluton to kill the 5 elders? So we are trying our best to destroy Pluton. What's the point? Even if Pluton is destroyed, it is just destroying one of Un's toys. Fujitora, Green Bull and the others were all numb, and for a moment they didn't know whether they should continue to act. Yun is now the god in their eyes. The almighty god. Let alone attacking Yun, they don't even have the courage to take a look at him. I felt that I should submit to Yun. At the same time, the red-haired pirates. Uranus attack dissipated. What did that guy do? Beckman looked horrified, and he seemed to have no feeling at all that the cigar in his hand was burning his hand. All his attention was attracted by the unprecedented vision in the sky. It's crazy! It's unbelievable! What kind of power is this? Is he Joy? Only the legendary Joyboy's power can achieve this level. Dongli and Broggy roared in shock, their huge bodies stiffening. Joy. Of course not. Shanks certainly knows that Un's power is not Joy Boy, because Luffy is the one who inherited Joy Boy's power. So what's going on now? Shanks's mind was in a mess. Just now I thought Luffy and the others were going to die, but then there was such a shocking reversal. Human power versus ancient weapon. Total victory. Crush. Judging from that relaxed action, even if Uranus himself was here, it would only take a wave of his hand. What kind of power does he possess? How could there be a power stronger than Joy Boy in this world? Shanks tightly grasped the handle of the knife in his hand, his eyes shocked. The screen in front of them showed the scene on the island. Even without the broadcast of the reporter bug, they could clearly see the Uranus attack being dissipated when they looked up. No one knows what happened. I don't even know how the Uranus attack dissipated. Appearing suddenly, disappearing faster than it appeared. It's like an actor who has walked into the wrong set, so funny and ridiculous. But Shanks couldn't laugh. He felt like an ant, and he could only submit to that man. The reason why Yun started the live broadcast was to let the whole world witness his power, to be terrified, afraid, and in awe from the bottom of their hearts. This nourishes his imperial will. The Emperor's will is inherently above all things. I am the only one in the world. Free will? World will? All must submit to the Emperor's will. Blackbeard pirates. Impossible! This is impossible! Cold sweat dripped down Blackbeard's forehead. He took a step back in horror and almost fell to the ground, shouting wildly. That's the power of the ancient weapon! How can anyone fight against Uranus? This scene was completely beyond his understanding. He couldn't believe it. That man is so scary! He waved his hand to dissolve Uranus' attack. How can we fight him? The Shiria people of Rain were also dumbfounded. The fear in their hearts reached its peak and they had the idea of turning around and running away. This, Akiji whispered, his expression changing. For a moment, he didn't know whether he should be happy that those people were not dead, or feel frustrated about how powerful Yun was. He was completely disheartened. Finally, he survived the desperate situation. But for him, perhaps he would rather have himself become hopeless. If I had known that Yun was so powerful, I would have made a fortune just by killing Yun, not to mention the people on the island. Even if I had to be buried with them, it would have been a huge success. Now no one can change the ending. Who can stand against Yun, who is more powerful and more terrible than Uranus? The whole world. Who can be the opponent of Yun? Akiji's eyes drooped. After escaping from a desperate situation, he felt hopeless again. Tired. Oh world, destroy it. The strength displayed by Yun made Akiji lose his mind. This may also be part of the reason why he was defeated by Charlotte. But no matter what, Akiji no longer has any fighting spirit. He knew that whether he went or not, he could not change the outcome of the island. Whether I live or die makes no difference to such a powerful man. Ants. A word to describe himself suddenly popped up in Akiji's mind. This proves that Akiji is still sane. After being briefly shocked, the other members of the Blackbird Pirates became even crazier. What kind of ability is that? Is it really an unprecedented mysterious devil fruit ability? Badgers was almost frightened to death just now, but now that he has recovered, he seems a little excited. This ability is too terrifying. That man is even more terrifying. Meow, the evil king looked at the approaching island with lingering fear and advised. Captain, I think we should be thorough. Going to the island now is tantamount to seeking death. Ah. The king of evil was afraid. Shiria narrowed her eyes. That man is invincible. As long as he lives, we will never succeed. Yes, so if you want to reach the top, you must find a way to kill him. Drunkard Jote waved his fist. As long as we seize his abilities and transfer them to the Admiral, we will be invincible. Lafitte's eyes lit up, and his thoughts became more and more crazy. Ha ha! You're right! Laozi can restrain all devil fruit users. As long as we use the dark fruit and prevent him from using his abilities, we'll have a chance to kill him and take away his abilities. If Laozi can master that ability, who in this world can be Laozi's opponent? Blackbeard's ambition became even more crazy after seeing that incredible ability. He is eager to take away Yun's ability. Not only Blackbeard, but almost all of them think that Yun is a devil fruit user. It's just that the devil fruit is a mysterious fruit that has never appeared before. That's why Blackbeard is so arrogant. He believes very much in the power of the dark fruit. As long as you are capable, then it will be difficult to escape from your own suppression. Especially with such a terrifying ability, how could Blackbeard not be tempted? But I always feel like something is weird. How about we take a long-term view? Duque questioned. He always had an uneasy feeling in his heart. What's the point of planning for the long term? Now is the best opportunity. He is surrounded by the world government and the Marines. Only if we suddenly appear at this time can we catch him off guard. If we wait until all the people in the world government and the Marines are dead, we will be in trouble. What chance do we have? Kaido, Big Mom, and the others are enough to give us a hard time. Bayaz suddenly became smart and analyzed the situation very cleverly, looking confident. King Evil Government and Depend nodded in agreement. It seems that now is indeed the best opportunity. Kaido, Big Mom, and Golden Lion are all restrained by the world government and marine strongmen. As long as they kill Un, Blackbeard's dark fruit ability will suppress Un and deprive him of his ability. A flawless plan. Darkness flowed in Blackbeard's eyes, but he still couldn't hide his greed. He stood up straight and ordered impatiently. Men! Attack Future Island! Take away Kasayun's abilities! As long as Laozi has that kind of power, the whole world will be ours. Thief, ha ha ha! Blackbeard laughed arrogantly. fighting for the great secret treasure? Laozi not only wants the great treasure, but also wants to rule the whole world. Blackbeard's ambition is infinitely magnified. With the power of the dark fruit in hand, it's like taking away the tremor fruit, taking away Kasayun's power. King of the world! Long live Captain Blackbeard! The pirates on the ship seemed to be brainwashed, waving their arms and shouting. They also knew the strangeness and power of the dark fruit, so they would not doubt what Blackbeard said. Akiji frowned and lowered his head without saying a word. Dark fruit. What a use! He knew that the previous user of the dark fruit was killed instantly by Yun. Now Blackbeard wants to use the dark fruit against Yun? It's so naive that it makes you want to laugh. But Akiji didn't stop him. Blackbeard's death can be considered as getting rid of a scourge for the world. He joined the Blackbeard pirates, but he was never sincere. Now that there is an opportunity to take advantage of someone's misfortune, how could I let it go? Besides, Akiji felt that it didn't matter whether he lived or died, but he would not be willing to die without going to the island to take a look. After seeing that scene, the Blackbeard pirates were briefly shocked and immediately chose to rush towards Future Island at a faster speed. Goal: take away Kasayun's abilities. Instead, they are full of confidence. Ships of the Revolutionary Army. There was complete silence. Oh my God, am I dazzled? Or am I having a nightmare? Ivankov's scalp tingled and he was stunned. What kind of power does that man possess? Long looked more solemn than ever before. Wave away Uranus attack. Is this really something a human can do? Luffy, I'm glad I'm okay. Sabo was truly relieved. Perhaps he was the only one whose first reaction was to be thankful that no one on Future Island died. They are fine. But there will be trouble next, Mori said in a panic. How can we fight against that man? If he wants to kill someone, that person will die. What should we do? Betty was also panicked. Since he is against the world government, I think we can talk to him. If he wants to do the same thing as us, the entire Revolutionary Army can be handed over to him. Long's eyes lit up, and suddenly he had an idea. Idea? But what if he is different from our ideal? Mori muttered softly. Then do you think we have room to resist? Ivankov came to his senses and said loudly. Now we have to meet him no matter what. He is already able to determine the direction and pattern of the world. As long as we can win him over. That's right. You've all seen his strength. I don't think I'm his match. Perhaps there's no one in the world who can match him. Long's voice became increasingly solemn. So we took a gamble. The Revolutionary Army is ready to give it a try. If they could get Yuan's help, their goal would be achieved. If I don't get Yuan's help, there's no difference between dying now and dying later. All parties have responded and taken action. Holy Land Marihoa. Between flowers. Who had used up all the power of the Mother Fire to launch Uranus attack, now had bloodshot eyes. My whole body was shaking. Conqueror's arrogance is released uncontrollably. Penga's city collapsed in the Conqueror's domineering storm. Yun was deeply moved when he saw Yun easily resolve Uranus attack. His position was threatened as never before. He would never allow any accidents to happen. Kasayun, you will definitely die. Is he a god? Kaido's pupils trembled and his face was full of disbelief. He knew that Yun was powerful, but he didn't expect Yun to be so powerful. Wave to annihilate Uranus attack. Is this something humans can do? Can Jiboy and Imu do this? The image of Yun in his mind was refreshed once again. This is so scary. How strong is this guy? The ant took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. She felt that Yun should be able to handle the Uranus attack. Even if we can't solve the problem, we have the means to take them away. But I didn't expect Yun to choose the most shocking way. Wave your hand. It was as if the devastating attack was just a gust of wind that dissipated with a slight wave of the hand. Invincible. Turns out he is truly invincible. Shiki the Golden Lion sighed. He has been with Yun for so many years, but he has never seen Yun's true strength. And today, I had the honor of seeing just a tiny bit of Yuan's abilities. Just the tip of the iceberg. But he has already been invincible in the world. God knows how terrifying it would be if Yuan used his full strength, but Golden Lion Shiki said he didn't want to see it. With this kind of strength, who can contend with him? Who the hell is he? Zoro had cold sweat running down his forehead, extremely shocked. There is a reason why he can become Hawkeye teacher. I have some ideas for Hawkeye, Charlotte, and Zoro to challenge. But for Yuan, he only had all. I can't help wanting to surrender. Not only him, but also Law, Sanji, Nami, Usopp, the 9 red scabbards and Momonosuke felt awe and submission in their hearts. The Emperor's will has been revealed. How dare people disobey? Ah? How could there be such a powerful guy? Why didn't he become One Piece? Luffy scratched his head, confused for a moment. No matter how motivated and confident he was, he couldn't muster any emotion at this moment. Even Joy Boy's will and Nika's power still have to submit to Yin. 40 years of planning. Enter the world in one day. Everyone in the world must worship me. Oh my God, thanks to my Hawk's relationship with him, we shouldn't have to die. Buggy muttered with lingering fear. He was suddenly glad to be half-partner with my Hawk. It has something to do with Yuan through twists and turns. Even if it was a terrifying existence, he didn't want to provoke it. In this case, it's no wonder that my Hawk was expelled from the sect. Crocodile stood beside Buggy, took a puff of cigar, and said slowly. Vegapunk was shocked and said in astonishment. You actually have the power to stop the ancient weapon? Then why did you use Pluton? The ancient weapon will cause the sea level to rise, and then no one will be able to escape. He didn't understand Yuan's behavior at all. Vegapunk did not understand Un's power, and never thought that Un could solve the problem of the sea swallowing the world. Rising sea levels? Yun smiled. With his hands behind his back, his eyes were filled with aloof and domineering aura. The whole world seemed to be shrouded in a layer of illusory and ethereal shadow. The majestic and domineering voice resounded throughout the universe. The heaven and earth should respect me as the most respected. How dare the sea not obey my command? The howling wind and the surging waves were all silent at this moment. The Emperor's command. Don't dare to disobey. Jialinsheng, Gangu and others felt their hearts tremble, their faces filled with horror, and they couldn't help but want to surrender. They still retained a modicum of sanity. But the ordinary soldiers could not help but kneel down and worship the boundless and domineering figure that seemed to tower over heaven and earth. The Emperor's will. Lord of Shadow. The Emperor's will nurtured in Yun's body completely revived, turning into infinite and unspeakable power that poured into Yun's body, making him more majestic and domineering, and the heaven and earth submitted to him. Wherever the shadow goes, it becomes a kingdom. Boom! Suddenly, huge waves appeared in the sea. Deep under the sea, groups of slightly terrifying shadows received the Emperor's order, broke through the sea surface and revealed their figures. Huge monsters that blocked out the sky and the sun appeared on the sea. See, Poseidon class! Their size is the king among Poseidons. How did they appear here? Jialinsheng's face was filled with extreme shock. The situation is completely out of control. Yun's power is beyond imagination. It is simply beyond human power to contend with. The Poseidon class suddenly appeared again, making him feel cold in his heart and his hands and feet numb. They are surrendering to Yun! The steel bones collapsed and roared. The Poseidon-like tribes that appeared on the sea surface bowed their heads to Un and submitted to him. The year Shirahoshi was born, Yun had mastered the Poseidon power and was able to command these Poseidons with ease. But at this moment, these Poseidons are serving the true Emperor, not the Poseidon power. That's Kamui who is more powerful than Poseidon. What is that? Garp's eyes suddenly focused on the ship behind the Poseidon, which was larger than the island, and his face was stunned. Yes, it's the disappeared Noah's Ark. It's the Noah's Ark of the fishmen under the sea. Jinbei shouted in shock, his heart full of emotions. Noah's Ark appears. And it is protected by Poseidon. Could it be that he has mastered the power of the last ancient weapon Poseidon? Jinbei couldn't calm down and guessed in panic. It's hard not to connect this to Poseidon. But can Poseidon's power be so strong? Jinbei himself began to doubt. Poseidon? Jialanxing was startled when he heard this. He subconsciously guessed something, but his eyes froze in the next second. How is this possible? His eyes fell on Noah's Ark. The ark was loaded with 2 steel behemoths. Ancient weapon, Pluton. 2 Plutons. There are 2 Plutons. Pluton. There is a Pluton on the ark. He is holding 2 Plutons in his hands. How is this possible? That's impossible. There's only 1 Pluton, how did he get 3? What should we do? Even 3 Plutons and Uranus can't stand up to us. The Knights of God gradually collapsed. The Poseidon class appears. Noah's Ark sailed the sea. What's even scarier is that there are 2 Plutons. With this power, who dares to disobey Yuan? Going against him is simply courting death. The Knights of God had no idea what to do at this moment. Is there any need to continue this battle? Not to mention other pirates, just these Poseidons and 2 Plutons are enough to give them a hard time. Poseidon-like creatures all show up. Yun's power enveloped the world and felt the entire world. This is his shadow kingdom, where everything can provide him with strength. At the same time, Yuan could clearly feel the boundless depths of the seabed, the raging waves gradually becoming turbulent, and the invisible sea water was born and poured into the sea. He felt the will of the world. The angry world will. The world's will to destroy everything. If you have the guts, just do it. I'm not in the mood to play with you if you resort to these boring tricks. Yuan whispered and lowered his eyes. The endless waves of the deep sea suddenly calmed down. The infinite and all-suppressing power of shadow completely conquers the sea. At this moment, the whole world is watching everything that happens on Future Island through the broadcast bugs. The world is witnessing how powerful Yuan is. When Yuan said that, everyone's respect for him reached its peak. The whole world is worshipping in the direction of Yuan. The world surrenders. Future Island. Yun's imperial will grows stronger. The world became clearer to him. He saw Im, who had transformed into an indescribable monster, and was rushing towards him. Seeing that Uranus' attack failed to kill Im had to rush to Future Island for the final battle. He is commanded by the will of the world. Kill Yuan at all costs. This is a far more formidable enemy than Joboy. The sea water around Future Island is in turmoil due to the appearance of the Poseidon-like creatures, accompanied by a huge wave. The huge body of San Juan Wolf rushed onto the island. Blackbeard, Akiji, and Shiria jumped off him. Damn it! How come so many Poseidons suddenly appear? Shiria looked at the group of huge monsters with cold eyes, releasing undisguised murderous intent. Their pirate ship was almost reaching the shore, but was suddenly overturned by a Poseidon. The Blackbird pirates were almost wiped out in the ocean. But after Shiria saw it clearly, his expression was stunned, his Adam's apple rolled, and he showed a trace of shock. The sizes of these Poseidons, are the kings among the Poseidons? Depen was shocked. If these Poseidons attack with all their might, destroying this island is a piece of cake. The sea is all around. It is the home of the Poseidon class. Ha ha! The Poseidons are here. This place is getting more and more lively. Blackbeard's eyes flashed darkly, and he laughed loudly. A cold, bloodthirsty look swept over Yun's figure. But Yun didn't even look at him. Blackbeard didn't deserve Yun's attention at all. Teach! You traitor! The Phoenix's flames surged, and Marco's anger level instantly reached the maximum. He is still fighting with Sengoku. But when he saw Blackbeard, he couldn't remain calm anymore. He wanted to take this opportunity to completely end the feud between the Whitebeard pirates and Blackbeard. Why are those guys from the Blackbeard pirates here too? Gang Gukong shook his head, becoming more distressed. In this battle, as long as Yun is here, the world government and Marine have no chance of winning. Now the Blackbeard pirates have reappeared. Could this really be a world-class melee? After this battle, No matter what the outcome, the world will be in chaos. Robin murmured. The forces involved in this battle are too complicated. Each side affects a huge area of sea. But Robin seemed to forget that Yuan alone could calm all the chaos. Before Blackbeard could take any action, Marco began to explode desperately. Phoenix! The flames are rolling! He suddenly gathered all the flames and merged them into the body of the phoenix, like a falling phoenix, launching a resolute attack. The blue flame cloud and flames symbolizing the awakened form are intertwined and difficult to distinguish. Zhang Guo's eyes suddenly narrowed. Even in golden body form, he could still feel the extremely terrifying temperature and a strong sense of crisis. Big Buddha Tyrant Shock Wave! Zhang Guo desperately unleashed all of Conqueror's domineering power, and integrated it all into the golden body in the form of ability. The scarlet lightning roared, and it seemed that the golden Buddha suddenly turned into a scarlet Buddha, which was extremely oppressive. Zhang Guo really tried his best. Garp's eyes narrowed, and he attacked without hesitation. However, Kid rushed out again and stopped him. Suddenly, the fuse appeared on the peaceful battlefield. The fight broke out again. Even if the world government doesn't want to fight, how can Kaido and Big Mom let them go? The Blackbeard pirates also joined the battle. Without warning, several shadowy forms appeared around Yun. Shadow Pteranodon, Shadow Mammoth. The shadow forms of the Three Calamities and the Flying Six. The shadows of Jin, Quinn, and Jack also instantly became entities and merged with themselves. Then, the shadow form of Yun's ability was transformed and merged into their respective bodies. Double shadow. Increase. Suddenly, the appearances of Jin, Jack, and Quinn changed greatly. Not only did their bodies swell in beast form, but their aura was also extremely oppressive. Behind them, a cloud of flames floated up, symbolizing their awakening form. The three disasters awaken. The Flying Six have also reached the awakening form, but their sense of oppression is far less than that of the three disasters. However, they have also reached the threshold of awakening, and their strength has skyrocketed. They should not be underestimated at all. Fuzzy Fu, who was just being suppressed by the awakened Kaku, completely awakened his saber-toothed tiger and directly turned the tide of the battle. What? Those guys from the Beast's Pirates have also awakened! Jialinsheng, Gonggu, and others were terrified and even more desperate. Ha 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 ha, what a powerful ability! Blackbeard grinned fiercely, with greed flashing in his eyes. Next second, he and the rest of the Blackbeard pirates joined the battle, but they did not go straight to Yuan. Instead, they all dispersed, forming a fan shape and silently surrounded Yuan. If you had taken charge of the Beast's pirates earlier, you would have conquered the world long ago. Kaido burst into laughter when he saw his subordinates awakening one after another. So much awakening power. Far more than the other four emperors. The teacher's power is so terrifying, Hawkeye said in admiration. The Seraph Hawkeye in front of him seemed to have no fear and only followed orders. What happened just now did not affect his attack. The two began to fight with swords. But Hawkeye was unable to finish off his opponent. Brother, let me introduce myself. I am Casa Charlotte. Charlotte was entangled by Cyborg, but she also came to a place not far from Hawkeye's battlefield and spoke with a smile. Master, I am not worthy of being called Senior Brother. Hawkeye opened his mouth to call him Junior Brother, but realized his identity and said dejectedly, I was kicked out by the teacher. Ha ha ha, don't worry, Senior Brother. Dad doesn't care about these things. Charlotte smiled carefree, then her expression turned serious. Brother, let me show you my ultimate slash. Charlotte narrowed her eyes slightly, and the sword energy in her body suddenly became sharp, leaving Madara's slashing marks on the ground. Hawkeye is at least his father's nominal disciple, and the only disciple besides himself. I can't lose my dad's people. Charlotte thought silently in her heart. The blue demon's luster faded and turned into an ordinary blade. Hawkeye's heart trembled, knowing that the other party wanted to help him break through, and he looked at Charlotte with gratitude. Charlotte held the knife in both hands, took a step forward, and shouted. If you hadn't waited for this moment, do you think you could have jumped around for so long? Gang Gukong's figure suddenly stiffened, and a feeling of fear and horror surged in his heart. How strong is this kid? I just killed Lucci and repelled their combined forces, and then I teamed up with Garp to fight him for a while. Could such a terrifying attack still erupt now? This is too perverted. No! I can't dodge this blow! He suddenly realized that he had been locked by the knife in front of him. That powerful slash that is invincible. Pupils dilate instantly. Gang Gukong suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis. Charlotte couldn't dodge this knife. It seems to carry the belief that the sky will be stained with blood and that we will never return until we win. Cyborg Kong's expression changed, and he finally realized that the reason he was able to delay Charlotte was because the other party was letting him win. Even though I was shocked by Charlotte's strength. But Cyborg would not just sit there and surrender. His face darkened and he shouted. Fist bone impact! Conqueror's aura surged around him, surrounded by dazzling arcs of lightning, and the tremendous power finally poured into his fist. The fist shadow was as vast as a falling star. Like a huge mountain collapsing and suppressing. This punch showed the powerful strength of Kong Gu. As a veteran strongman, the foundation of his cultivation should not be underestimated. However, Charlotte's blade is sharper. Cut the heaven and earth. Invincible. The knife in his hand is already the blade of judgment. Charlotte's will, or belief, is the blade, and everything is like an ant. Insanely powerful. He is still unable to comprehend the true power of will, but under Yuan's training, his own beliefs are already incomparable. Strong strength. Unshakable confidence. It was this decisive knife. The enemies in front of my sword are cut like ants and chopped like floating clouds. Just like Yuan's swordsmanship back then. But Charlotte's swordsmanship was more rounded, stronger, and sharper than Yuan's at that time. Born to fight. Shoulder the glory. The world is changing. Everyone changed color. Hawkeye was surprised and incredulous. Junior brother swordsmanship is too crazy. But isn't it crazy to push a limit that doesn't exist? But there's no way to stop this attack. What if we can't win? Hawkeye was thinking deeply, looking a little confused. His swordsmanship is certainly powerful, but he doesn't have the same indomitable spirit as Charlotte. Or maybe he doesn't have as much confidence as Charlotte. Cyborg Fleet Admiral. Garp's face was gloomy. On one side is the Warring States, on the other side is the Steel Bone. They are not in good condition. I will never be defeated by a brat like you. Woon's son! Go to hell! Cyborg's face was ferocious, and he threw the strongest punch of his life. Clang! The fearless slash fell. The two figures of Charlotte and Cyborg collided with a loud bang. The storm suddenly swept in. It spreads to the surrounding area and destroys everything like devastation. However, the actual impact seemed to last only a few seconds. The fist shadow dissipated. The steel bone's momentum collapsed. Surprise and disbelief appeared in his eyes, and the fear in the depths of his eyes gradually spread. What kind of move is this? Steel Bone Sora's voice was drowned out by the howling storm. His huge body, as big as a mountain, was torn into pieces with a deep blood mark, and his body flew backwards uncontrollably. Fell heavily to the ground. Steel Bone was weak and seriously injured. Cyborg Fleet Admiral! Garp punched back at Kid's attack, his face filled with shock and anxiety. Cyborg Fleet Admiral also lost to that guy. After defeating Kazan and rushing to the future to kill Lucci in his awakened form, he burst out with a super strong attack to block the attacks of 4 strong men. After fighting for so long, he still has the strength to cut down Cyborg. There was no power recovery from Yin at all, it was all due to his own strong physique. How can he be so powerful at such a young age? Garp was completely puzzled and almost collapsed. Yuan had the power of a devil fruit back then, but Charlotte in front of him was a combination of physical skills, domineering, and kendo, without relying on the power of a devil fruit at all. How could they be so perverted? Cyborg! Damn it! Jialanxing cursed in a low voice, extremely angry. After a series of defeats, Cyborg has now also been defeated, and his momentum has instantly plummeted to the bottom. It makes people feel that the pirates led by Yuan are invincible. This makes the battle seem even more meaningless. Ha! Cyborg has such bad luck. Charlotte is the scariest guy besides Yuan. The Golden Lion Shiki laughed loudly, while the attacks of Kumu and Ingju became more and more intense, not giving Jialanxing any chance to breathe. The two of them are very similar in strength. However, affected by the situation, the Golden Lion Shiki had no scruples and launched an attack with great enthusiasm. Jialanxing, however, was always paying attention to the battle situation in other places. In comparison, he was a little timid and seemed to want to save as much energy as possible. He didn't dare to burst out with all his strength. Golden Lion! Do you know what you are doing? Some results are beyond the ability of all of you to bear. Joey Boy couldn't change the world, so do you think you can? Jialanxing had a gloomy face and wanted to shake the Golden Lion's psychology. Joey Boy? Who is he? Laozi doesn't even know him. Laozi certainly can't change the world, but he alone is enough. Golden Lion Shiki took a breath, took a puff of his cigar, and exhaled a puff of thick smoke. Shiki, the legendary Joybo Golden Lion, certainly knows that. But I don't care. He only believes in Yun. Cyborg's swift defeat weighed heavily on the hearts of the strong men in the world government camp, making it difficult for them to breathe. The eagle-eyed eyes stared at the sword energy that was slowly dissipating from the sky and earth. The eagle-eyed eyes became brighter and brighter, as if they had realized something, and they whispered softly, I am ashamed of my junior brother's invincible self-confidence, and it is difficult for me to have the same belief as him. But the limit is to be surpassed. Surpass yourself. Surpass your junior fellow apprentice. Hawkeye gained some insights, and developed a belief in the way of the sword. But he still couldn't imagine surpassing Yuan. The black knife glowed coldly at night. I can use this fake of yours as a practice! Hawkeye shouted loudly with great momentum. At this moment, he once again had the demeanor of the world's #1 swordsman. No matter how strong the enemy is, he surpassed himself. The wind stops, the sword comes out. The reborn Hawkeye strikes again. Although the moves seemed to be not much different from before, he suppressed the evenly matched Seraphim Hawkeye right from the start. Has Hawkeye made another breakthrough? Zoro felt the change in Hawkeye's aura and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, and the pressure in his heart increased a little. What kind of terrifying talent does that boy have? He can even teach Hawkeye. And that man. Is today really the end of the world? Fujitora felt increasingly heavy in his heart. But he couldn't change anything. Zoro in front of him was not to be underestimated, so he had to give it his all. Get out of here! Garp shouted angrily and delivered a punch that destroyed the world. The tyranny surges and roars. The steel mecha with awakened power of Kid was smashed to pieces, and Kid flew out with blood spitting out of his mouth. The hero was defeated again. Kid is facing an enraged Garp, and it is really difficult to fight back. But Garp was also very exhausted, his chest heaving and breathing heavily. Just when he was about to rescue Cyborg. Bad news from the Warring States period again. Boom! The flames of the Phoenix roared and exploded continuously, erupting with terrifying power. Even the overwhelming shock wave before him could not stop his attack. Even if there are injuries on the body, the blue flame will instantly fill and repair them. It just consumes a lot of physical energy. Not everyone can compare to Charlotte. Her perpetual motion-like recovery ability is beyond everyone's comprehension. On the other hand, Garp was exhausted even after defeating Kid. Marco and Sengoku's consumption was even more terrifying. They have been fighting from the beginning until now. The gold body, which was rendered black by conquerors, began to crack. Impossible! Jean Wu looked terrified and shouted loudly. 40 years ago, his golden body was shattered by a single blow from Yuan. Was his golden body shattered by Marco again today? The furious Zhanggue had blood oozing from the corners of his mouth, and his mind was in turmoil. Bang! Brilliant bloom! Gold shattered. In the storm, Zhanggue's body was swept out and rolled to the ground. The white marine robe on his chest was stained red with blood, looking very miserable. Phew! The sound of the wind carried the azure flames, and the silhouette of the phoenix slowly solidified, overlooking the seriously injured Zhanggue. The misty burning flame was not as blazing and bright as before. It can be seen that Marco's consumption is not small. If it weren't for the characteristics of the phoenix, he might not be able to maintain the phoenix form. But no matter what the process is, the result is speechless. Phoenix Marco defeated the Buddha Warring States. Oh, this is really bad! Kizaru's tone was solemn, and there was no trace of smile on his cynical face. Whoosh! Yellow flash rush. Kizaru took away the seriously injured Sengoku in an instant, without giving Marco a chance to finish him off. Yellow flash reaches shore. Staff officer, he has led his troops to the shore and is here to provide support. But the soldiers behind her had just surrendered to Yun's imperial power. Kizaru just placed Sengoku in a safe open space. The roaring blue thunder arrived instantly. Kizaru condensed the sword of Ainokyum and blocked it in front of him. Bang! The force of the thunder explosion forced Kizaru back. You aggressive fellow, you really pissed me off! Kizaru's tone became a little more stern, and even seemed a little crazy. His body suddenly turned into countless flashing yellow dots of light, gathering from all directions in the blink of an eye. Condensed in an instant. Kizaru suddenly swung his sword, and the powerful force knocked Enel down by surprise. Yeah, ha ha ha! This is interesting. Sniff. Enel did not land on the ground, but turned into lightning and moved around. A yellow flash entangled with him in an instant. The battle between the two men was invisible to the naked eye. One could only see two streaks of light sliding across the sky and a violent roar. This is a competition of pure ability. The other side. Garp rushed towards Marco and knocked him away with a punch. Just as he was about to continue chasing him, a burly figure fell from the sky. The body of the azure dragon has dark scales that sparkle with a deep luster, and a black flame cloud is floating behind it. Oh la 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 la! Garp, even you are starting to bully the younger generation. Speaking of which, Lousy and Whitebeard are acquainted with each other. If it weren't for Red Hair's obstruction, Lousy might not have let Whitebeard die in the hands of you guys in the Battle of Marineford. Kaido walked over with a smile, then threw the body of a member of the Knights of God who was trying to stop him aside. Garp's eyes narrowed. He is also a strong man among the Knights of God. But he was still killed by Kaido. Even, it didn't attract much attention. The Azure Dragon has awakened. This is my last battle. Kaido! Don't think I'm really old. Garp steps, punches, and sprints. Attack! Kaido grinned, threw away the 8 rings, and rushed towards Garp with his bare hands. The two sides started fighting again. Yun stood quietly in the middle of the island. Everyone was fighting, no one dared to affect him. Yun had no interest in taking action either. He suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. It's finally here. Im is almost here. He was always within Yun's perception. The reason for reacting now is that Im has entered Pluton's range. In terms of attack methods, Pluton and Uranus are still different. The two Plutons on Noah's Ark moved in the direction of attack without warning. Pluton exercise? What is he going to do? Lafitte followed behind Blackbeard, moving through the battlefield, muttering in surprise. Don't worry about ancient weapon. As long as we plunder his abilities, Lousy will have the power to fight against ancient weapon. Blackbeard grinned fiercely, his eyes revealing ambition. The Blackbeard pirates joined the battlefield later and quickly moved through the battlefield, slowly surrounding Yun in a fan-shaped manner. Just at this moment, countless lava suddenly appeared in the sky. Meteor volcano! Akainu's fists turned into molten lava to produce a large number of huge lava fists, and launched them into the air. Then, the magma fists continued to fall from the sky like a meteor shower. enough to turn the entire island into a sea of fire. Akainu, who has been unable to defeat Luffy, completely explodes. At this time, the psychological pressure on Akainu and his friends has accumulated, making them more and more crazy. Meteor volcano comes out. This is enough to show how strong Akainu's murderous intention is. He wanted to disrupt the entire battlefield. Fifth gear. Swish, swish. The deep and explosive Conqueror's domineering aura caused the thunder to roar. Luffy enters Gear 5 again. Nika's power exploded. The hair and eyebrows turn snow-white, fluttering like flames. A white flame cloud appears, which is completely different from other animal awakenings. Nika power bursts. Luffy's figure at this time became extremely terrifying. The ground beneath his feet became as soft as rubber, and he felt like he was bouncing as he walked on it. It's that form again! Akainu's eyes were solemn and his murderous intent was even stronger. Jialinxing wanted to die. Nika's power also appeared. He is really about to break down. Yuan shows up and stirs up the situation. At moments like this, Nika's power truly emerges. In the past, the Garen Seigneur would kill Luffy at all costs and eliminate the existence of Nika's power. But now, he actually felt that the existence that the world government had feared for 800 years was not that important anymore. Just because of Yun, who is more powerful than Joy Boy. Even the sun god is eclipsed. Luffy! Garp was speechless. His grandson is Joy Boy, the world government's 800-year-old enemy. Garp felt tired. Joey Boy! It's really Joy Boy! Vegapunk roared excitedly. At the same time, in the distance, a figure rushed into the clouds and came across the sea. The silhouette of the Elephant Lord slowly emerged from the clouds. Joe Boy! The Elephant Master's excited voice echoed in Momonosuke's mind. There was a commotion among the marine and world government forces. The Revolutionary Army and the Red Hair Pirates appeared one after another, rushing in from the fleets of marine and world government. Hee hee! Luffy showed his signature smile, suddenly grabbed the ground with his hands and lifted it up. Unreasonable ability revealed. Luffy once again activated the shocking power of Gear 5th. Under the control of his ability, the ground was like a curtain floating in the air, covering the sky like a fishing net. Boom, boom, boom. The falling lava boulders were all blocked by the rubber floor, so no one else was affected or hurt. Assimilation power? Akainu's eyelids twitched, and there was murderous intent in his eyes. The magma flowing in his arms suddenly flashed a dark red luster. He recognized this move as an ability similar to Logia after awakening, and immediately launched another attack without hesitation. Two pillars of scorching lava suddenly shot up into the sky and blasted towards Luffy in an alternating pattern. Wherever he went, the air seemed to be burning and extremely hot. Fire Fist! Before Luffy could fight back, a familiar voice was heard. Immediately following, a flaming fist came from the sky. The momentum was so violent that it blocked the lava column. Flame! Akainu frowned even deeper, staring deeply at the figure stepping out of the flames, his voice hoarse. Sabo, Chief of Staff of the Revolutionary Army! The Revolutionary Army appears. Sabo rushed to Luffy's side as soon as he landed. Ah? Sabo! Why are you here? Hee hee hee! Luffy flipped over and fell from the sky, still jumping on the ground, looking particularly surprised. Not only me, but all the cadres of our Revolutionary Army are here. Luffy, this war has a different meaning. Sabo explained seriously. Everyone is here? Does that mean? Luffy realized it later and turned his head to look. Looked at the somewhat unfamiliar figure of the relative. But I saw a familiar person. Eh? Shanks? You're here? Long stood at the edge of the battlefield and did not join it. Behind him were the world government and marine soldiers charging, but they were all stopped by the cadres of the Revolutionary Army. The redhead slowly walked over to the dragon. Leader of the Revolutionary Army, I've heard a lot about you. Shanks was the first to nod and greet. For Emperor's red hair, I didn't expect you to be here too. Is that the reorganized giant pirates? Long looked at Shanks, and when he saw the empty sleeves of the broken arm, a strange look appeared on his face. The two giant leaders, Broggy and Downley, led several giant pirates and forced the world government's troops to be unable to attack the shore. Even Momosaji and Shaitan were blocked. Yes, the giant pirates have been reorganized, all thanks to Luffy. Shanks did not get straight to the point, but mentioned Luffy. They were negotiating here, obviously trying to find out what the other party was thinking. But no one spoke at the first time. Luffy! Dragon looked in the direction of Sabo and Luffy, and his tone changed. Luffy was able to gain Joy Boy's power, but it was because of you, Shanks, so you don't have anything to say? Shanks shook his head and said seriously, It was not me who chose him, but fate that chose him. I just did what I should do. Fate's choice? Long's voice was filled with a faint sneer, and he suddenly changed the subject. Then is this situation also caused by fate? Shanks paused for a moment, looking at the figure that was impossible to look at directly, with a gloomy expression. I have no idea. Luffy inherited Captain Roger's will, is the one who possesses Joy Boy's power, and is the one who is destined to appear. But that man is a monster who suppressed all pirates in the last era. Captain Roger is no match for him. He told it truthfully. To be honest, Shanks is also an ambitious guy, but when facing Yuan, he has no intention of competing with him. He knew very well that he could not be a match for Yuan. Oh? So you're just here to join in the fun? Long said lightly. Isn't it you, the Revolutionary Army? This is also the opportunity you see, right? Shanks retorted without showing any weakness. How could he not guess what Long was thinking? The Revolutionary Army must be desperate for Yuan's help. The topic of their conversation suddenly but naturally shifted from Luffy to Yuan. In the past, Luffy was definitely the protagonist in everyone's eyes. How can it not be shocking that Joy Boy's power reappears after 800 years? But then Yuan started the war to enter the world. Everything pales in comparison to Yuan. Whether it is the famous Luffy or the legendary power of Joy Boy. That's right. If that person is willing to change the world as it is now, it's not a bad idea for the Revolutionary Army to obey his orders. Long said seriously. He was very nervous. Because no one knows what Yuan is thinking. Shanks was silent, then suddenly sighed. Yes, the fate of the world seems to fall on him alone. Joy Boy, Captain Roger's will, the world government's ancient weapon, all are useless. The 5 elders are all dead, now the only one left is the one who holds the throne. Long and Shanks have the same opinion on this matter. As long as I cannot change all this, the world government and marine will be completely defeated. From now on, the world will be an era where many countries are independent and pirates dominate. The Revolutionary Army will benefit even more. But before that, we still need to talk to that person, Long Yu said. If you want Yuan's help, you must at least show your sincerity. Otherwise, both camps are enemies. Shanks was even more helpless. He is in competition with Kaido and Big Mom, and is naturally somewhat hostile to Yuan. But suddenly, Shanks' eyes narrowed and he asked coldly, What are those Blackbeard guys going to do? He was at a relatively far distance, and could see most of the battle situation. I just happened to notice that the scattered figures of the Blackbeard pirates were moving towards a target. They want to take action against Yuan? When did Blackbeard become so stupid? Shanks was a little confused. This was totally unexpected. Apart from the world government, there are people who are reckless enough to attack Yuan. It can be said that Blackbeard is definitely the least informed group among all the forces. Akiji didn't tell them what he knew. So, the actions of the Blackbeard pirates seem extremely stupid. The opportunity has arrived! Long's eyes lit up, as if he had found an opportunity to contact Yuan. The Blackbeard pirates' foolish behavior was tantamount to suicide, but it gave Dragon the opportunity to show off in front of Yuan. He swooped down without hesitation, ready to intercept Blackbeard. This guy. Shanks' eyes flickered, and he finally chose to take action and followed closely behind. The two of them had an unspoken understanding and both regarded Blackbeard as the best opportunity. However, on the other side, Luffy had already turned his eyes away from Shanks and Dragon. Gear 5 Luffy, and Sable with the flame fruit. Brothers join forces. Battle against the mortal enemy Akainu. Sakazuki, you deserve to die. Sable's voice was icy cold, but he still couldn't hide his regret and sorrow. He tugged at the gloves on his palms, and without warning, flames started burning from behind and spread to his palms. The flames burned, and Sable's expression was covered by the fire, casting a shadow that made it difficult to see clearly. This is Ace's power. But if possible, Sable would rather Ace use this power in front of him. But everything cannot be changed. Just you? Lousy can kill a sinful kid with Roger's blood with one punch. How can he not kill you? I heard that you three are the best brothers? You should go to hell to accompany him. Hell is prepared for sinful guys like you. Akainu continued his usual style of murdering people and trying to disturb Sable and Luffy's emotions. But he soon regretted it. Shut up! Luffy shouted loudly, his momentum bursting. Originally awakening the fifth gear, he had the power to make people laugh, but now his face was very gloomy and full of anger. At this time, Luffy was angrier than ever. You deserve to die! Sable's face, shrouded in the shadow of burning flames, was as gloomy as water, and his whole body was filled with unprecedented strong murderous intent, and he roared angrily. Immediately the flames condensed, and the fire fist blasted out. There was even more ferocity on Akainu's face. He blasted out a stream of magma and collided head-on with the fire fist. Boom! The moment the terrifying heat wave exploded, the lava unexpectedly did not directly suppress the flames. Akainu was slightly surprised. Before he could launch his offensive, 2 lightning flashes suddenly flashed across the sky. Tisk dash! Luffy reached out and grabbed 2 thunderbolts, throwing them like thunder spears. In an instant, he attacked Akainu. This guy can actually control lightning! Akainu was surprised in his heart, and raised his arms slightly unprepared to withstand the impact of the thunder explosion. Bang! As the lightning gradually disappeared, Akainu's entire arm disappeared, and half of his face was missing. Against the backdrop of the magma flowing around his body, the whole person looked even more terrifying. He twisted his arm, and his face and lost arm gradually recovered under the magma. The moment he recovered, Sable, who was killed, was sent flying dozens of meters with a punch. Anger rose in Akainu's heart. 2 brats who don't know how to live or die! You will be killed by Lousy himself like the little devils of Roger Blood! He would never believe that he would be suppressed by 2 brats. Akainu wants to kill Sable just like he killed Ace 2 years ago, and then kill the Straw Hat Boy he failed to kill with his own hands. To do this, even death is enough. The next second, the lava flowing under Akainu's feet is assimilating everything around it into a magma hell. But his feet suddenly became soft, full of elasticity, and turned into rubber. Not only that, as the ground bounces up and down, the magma above is soaring and moving like water droplets that cannot penetrate an umbrella. Akainu was dumbfounded by this scene. My own magma can't change the surrounding environment? To be more precise, it was forcibly blocked by a force and unable to change the ground. How is this possible? Akainu was really confused. The body bounced along with the body and suddenly flew up. Rubber Ape King Gun! A figure wrapped in a cloud of white flames suddenly appeared in front of Akainu, and a super powerful blow wrapped around Conqueror's Haki, suddenly crashing down. Collapse! Airflow bursts. Akainu's body seemed to be shattered at this moment, and he suffered heavy injuries in an instant. Just like when Whitebeard hit his body with the shock fruit, the powerful power was like an explosion in his body, causing extremely serious injuries. A strong wind rose. Akainu was forcefully knocked into the ground by this punch. Even the elastic rubber was pierced by the strong impact. The scene of Akainu's disappearance was seen by everyone, with different expressions. Garp's expression changed. He was completely powerless to intervene in the fight between Luffy and Akainu. There is still an indescribable conflict in my heart. It would be strange for him to feel good when his own son and grandson are both in the enemy camp. Sakaski failed to kill him? Jialanxing's eyes were gloomy, and he gradually became crazy. In his opinion, even if he couldn't kill Yuan, he had to kill Joy Boy. But now, Akainu was suppressed right from the start. Akainu is worthy of killing the person who inherited Joy Boy's power? The Golden Lion Shiki sneered, blasted Garanxing back with a sword move, and then immediately rushed forward, not giving the other party any chance to breathe. Only a few people present saw clearly what happened to Akainu just now. It's as if his magma suddenly failed. It's because the ability of the magma fruit has been suppressed. The power of the sun god can perfectly restrain the power of magma. When Akainu used the power of the magma fruit to suppress Ace of the flame fruit, he would never have thought that one day he would be defeated by the fruit's restraint. This happened so suddenly that Akainu didn't even have time to react. His mind went blank at that moment, which led to him being hit hard by Luffy. Not dead yet? Sabo's eyes suddenly focused as he watched the hot air rising from the bottom like white waves, followed by magma seeping out. After Luffy's attack just now, he released his ability against the ground. So now the ground is gradually beginning to change into magma. Hola! The flowing lava gradually condensed into a human figure. Akainu showed up. However, he was in a very bad condition at the moment, and the clear bloodstains at the corners of his mouth reflected how powerful the attack he had just suffered was. But the abnormal thing about Akainu is its blood-locking vitality, like a cockroach that is immune to death. Its vitality is as tenacious as that of the mythical beasts. In this case, not only was Akainu able to stand up, he even still showed his violent momentum. Lava is flowing. You can't kill Lazi. At worst, we can die together. Akainu's eyes were red, his extreme thoughts made him completely crazy, and he was ready to give it a try. Sizzle! Arcs of electricity swirled around Akainu, and Conqueror's domineering aura permeated out. All of it merged into the magma around him. The originally fiery red magma turned dark and filled with an invisible sense of oppression. Conqueror's domineering entanglement, completely combined with magma. This is the limit of what Akainu can do. Sakaski, he's just crazy. Akiji lowered his eyes and murmured in his heart. He knew very well how terrible the loss of the attack Akainu was about to launch was. But he was powerless to do anything. Akainu's battle can only be resolved by himself. Victory or defeat is still unknown. Lava hell! Akainu shouted coldly, and the magma flowing around him became deeper and more terrifying. The air was scorching yet oppressive, making it hard to breathe. It was like a lava purgatory. This terrifying momentum made Sabo look serious, and he shouted, Luffy, be careful of this guy. He could feel the terror of Akainu's impending attack. After all, the fusion of Conqueror's domineering magma is no longer the same. Okay. This battle should be over. Luffy nodded, and took a deep breath as his chest rose and fell. The right hand expanded rapidly, visibly. Lightning arc flashes. Likewise Conqueror's twine. Luffy's fist expanded rapidly, wrapped in exploding lightning, whistling in the sky. Suddenly, an extremely huge fist was formed, emitting a deep and domineering luster. Rubber monkey gun! This is Luffy's strongest attack. He defeated Kaido with this move. After that, Luffy fought with the awakened Kaido, and his understanding of the awakened power became deeper. I don't know if it's the power of Joy Boy or the Nika fruit itself, but Luffy's strength seems to have increased a lot, as if he had undergone a transformation. This guy's power, he's also a monster! Kaido turned his head and looked at the huge fist, feeling a deep sense of oppression. Luffy's growth rate is truly amazing. I didn't expect Luffy to have grown to this point. Garp looked emotional, and his tone revealed a feeling of relief. Familiar power! It seems this guy will be my opponent. Charlotte rubbed her chin, very interested in Luffy. He sensed an aura from Luffy that was very similar to Yoon's, but it was nowhere near as powerful as Yoon's. Charlotte doesn't think she is inferior to Luffy, She just has a competitive feeling in her heart. Lava three-headed dog! Akainu's gloomy eyes were filled with unprecedented madness. The surrounding magma was extremely hot. When Akainu finished speaking, countless magmas, wrapped in Conqueror's domineering aura, rushed towards Akainu with a roar. Akainu's face disappeared and he completely turned into magma. In other words, he completely transformed into the form of magma, and with the incorporation of more magma, his molten lava body quickly grew larger, revealing a violent aura. More and more magma is gathering. The three ferocious-looking and howling lava flame dogs are completely formed. The dark magma wrapped around Conqueror's domineering aura on the body of the three-headed hellhound flashes with red lines, flashing like breathing, showing its power. Magma drips from the mouth of the three-headed hellhound, just like a demon dog from hell, full of oppression. Akainu unleashes his strongest move. Flames surged on Sabo's body, flashing colors brighter than magma. His palm formed into a dragon claw shape, with flames surging and wrapping around it. In the blink of an eye, a fire dragon condensed. Flame Dragon King! Sabo roared, and more flames burst out and merged into the fire dragon. Instead of growing bigger, the fire dragon's body was slowly shrinking, and the red color became brighter and more dazzling. Sabo's face was visibly pale. He consumed most of his energy, and transformed it into flames. All three of them have finished accumulating their strength. The first to fall was Luffy's fist. The monkey god lance falls. The three-headed hellhound roared, magma surged, and the huge, blazing and hot body rushed out brazenly. Swish, swish. Countless thunders raged. Boom. The destructive impact of the explosion spread rapidly. The ape god lance and the three-headed dog of hell collided with a loud bang. However, the impact they unleashed, after spreading to a certain range, suddenly rolled back, as if blocked by something. Everyone watched this scene and swallowed their saliva. They all knew that it was Yuan who stopped the storm from raging. At the same time, something even more shocking happened. Buzz. Buzz. A strong surge of energy. The black hole of Pluton's attack port on Noah's Ark flashed with light, accumulating a destructive force more violent than the battle between Luffy and Akainu. What is he going to do? Jilin Sheng's heart was pounding, and he suddenly had a bad feeling. The direction Pluton was aiming at was Mary Geos. Is he going to destroy Marihoa? Or is he going to stop Lord Im? Jilin Sheng was completely panicked. No matter which result it is, it seems unacceptable. Blackbeard was stunned, a little confused. He controlled two Plutons to attack at the same time? How did he do it? He looked at the other leaders of the pirate group not far away, signaling with his eyes that they were ready to launch an attack. As long as he uses the power of the dark fruit to control Yun unexpectedly, he will be the master of the world. Two Pluton attacks, what is he going to do? Long and Shanks looked surprised, unable to understand Yuan's target. Do we really want to destroy Marihoa? But isn't one attack enough? Just as everyone was hesitating. Boom! Two beams of destructive light shot out. Disappeared from everyone's sight in an instant. Pluton attack launched. Luffy and Akainu were fighting fiercely and paid no attention to the outside world. They were directly isolated by the Yun space and could not emit any fluctuations, which further proved that they were not on the same level as Yun. The Fire Dragon King went upstream in the storm. Blast at the head of the three-headed lava hellhound. Even though the magma fruit is a superior version of the flame fruit, Akainu is now completely suppressed by Luffy. How can the magma shake the sun god? It was only a matter of time before Akainu was defeated. Sabo accelerated his defeat. Boom! The roar shook. Suddenly. Lava explosion! The head of the lava hellhound that the Fire Dragon King attacked completely shattered and turned into broken magma splashing down. The momentum of the three-headed hellhound quickly dissipated. Call! The Fire Dragon King flew by. The flames slowly dissipated. Sabo showed up with a pale face and immediately turned his head to look behind him. When the three-headed hellhound lost one of its heads, the magma in its body began to dissipate immediately, and it was even difficult to condense into shape. Luffy's attack is even more fierce. Boom! The ape god's spear continued to strike down. The three-headed dog of hell was completely unable to resist. Akainu turned into magma and condensed the three-headed dog of hell, but he was unable to defeat the combined forces of Luffy and Sabo. He has now become a ball of magma, and his shape is completely unrecognizable. There was not even a chance or the strength to condense his body into a new shape. The ape god's spear bombarded the magma, continued to blast down, piercing through the ground of Future Island. Laugh. The backflow of seawater and the eruption of magma made a fierce and harsh evaporation sound. But it dissipates faster. A ball of lava fell straight into the deep sea. And it was constantly being consumed by the sea water, slowly turning into a reef-like existence, and sinking to the bottom of the sea. Whoosh! Luffy retracted his fist and his awakened form was released. He landed next to Sabo. The two of them tacitly kept silent, looking down at the surging seawater in the hole blasted by the ape god's spear with downcast expressions. In this situation, Akainu should not be able to survive. Sinking to the bottom of the sea is a fatal blow to ordinary devil fruit users. What's more, Akainu was still in the form of magma, and he couldn't even recover his body shape before being submerged by the sea. Not a trace was left. Ace, Sabo whispered softly, his eyes slightly moist. I don't know what he was thinking about at this moment, he was stunned for a while. Luffy rubbed his eyes and turned to look at the battlefield. The space barrier will automatically dissipate when the battle ends. Luffy saw Garp, saw Dragon, Shanks, saw his friends, and saw Charlotte. His gaze finally fell on Blackbeard. Sabo seemed to sense something and turned his head, staring at Blackbeard. This guy was the culprit in the first place. Sabo was suddenly a little surprised. This war seemed to have created an environment for them to take revenge. All the grudges. Everyone will understand. All enemies appear, and it doesn't matter whether you succeed or fail. Sakazuki. Akiji frowned, feeling very unhappy. The two had been at odds for many years. At this moment, his old rival fell in front of him, and Akiji felt extremely sad. But the dust has settled. No one can change the ending. Akainu is dead! The seriously injured Zhangguo stood up with the help of Staff Officer He, looking sad. Although Akainu has radical ideas, he is a Marine Fleet Admiral after all. This means that Marine. Wrong. Sengoku reacted quickly. Whether Akainu died or not, Marine was finished. World government is also finished. Although the remnants of the Holy Knights of Garen and God are still fighting, it is of no use. Cyborg fell to the ground, seriously injured. Garp is restrained by Kaido. The figure on the Void Throne has not appeared yet. Warring States we. Staff Officer He's lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but after thinking for a while he still didn't say it. Why? Zhanghua sighed deeply. He turned his head and looked at the Marine soldiers and World Government soldiers who were blocked by the Red Hair Pirates and the Revolutionary Army. His eyes gradually became firm. All Marine! World Government soldiers! Listen to my orders. Stop the attack! Zhanghua endured the pain from his wound and roared with all his might. This is also his last order to Marine. The most decisive order. As for the World Government soldiers, it is up to them whether to obey or not. Zhanghua has come to his senses and all he can do is reduce casualties. He feels that Yuan's target is not them at all. As for those ordinary soldiers, Yuan is too lazy to pay attention to them. So Zhanghua ordered to abandon the attack and reduce casualties. Even if Yuan fails in the end, he will bear all the blame on the world government alone. I have to say that the Warring States period was quite courageous. The roar of the Warring States spread across the battlefield. The Marines subconsciously stopped attacking. Although they said they were attacking, they were actually more like committing suicide. A member of the Giant Clan, a cadre of the Revolutionary Army, and a cadre of the Red Hair Pirates. They were totally overwhelmed. Damn it! John Gua! Are you going to be a traitor? What qualifications do you have to order them around? I now command you as a celestial dragon. Attack at all costs. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy. Jialin Xing immediately became angry and shouted wildly. But his orders were not as effective as those of the Warring States period. The Marines' attack stopped. The world government soldiers hesitated for a moment, but still wanted to die. Seeing this, Counselor He spoke on behalf of Zhang Guo. Everyone in the world government! Stop the attack! You can't change the situation, you can only die. Listen! This battle has nothing to do with you anymore. Stop attacking if you don't want to die. Staff officer He had just seen the situation clearly and wanted to talk to Zhang Guo about this matter, but he didn't expect that Zhang Guo was decisive and gave the order directly. Although he abdicated, his prestige remains. At this time, Chief of Staff He spoke, and the soldiers of the world government were also shaken. There were discussions among them. That makes sense. Why should we fight so hard? That's right. Uranus's attack just now didn't care about our lives at all. We don't want to work for the world government anymore. The celestial dragons only want us to die. I quit. Various sounds came one after another. Of course, this is also the reason why the world government and marine powers were defeated. And Uranus attacked, totally not caring about the lives of 100,000 of them. It's even more disheartening. Jialin Xing's eyes were red as if flames were gushing out, and he shouted angrily. Assholes! You all deserve to die! Cyborg and Sengoku were seriously injured. Akaina died. There are only a few members of the Knights of God left. At this time, all troops gave up the attack. They should use their lives to delay time. Jialin Xing was extremely angry when he saw these ant-like people. Bang! But as soon as he was distracted, he was blasted away by the golden lion. He was so angry that he vomited blood and looked more and more embarrassed. Is it going to end? Luo threw away the head of the Seraph Doflamingo in his hand, looked up at the battle of lightning and yellow flashes in the distance, and murmured softly. He wasn't talking about the battle between Kizaru and Enel, but today's battle. World government and marine are clearly doomed. Although the winner between Kizaru and Enel has not yet been decided, Kizaru no longer has the will to fight after seeing Akainu's death and Sengoku's words. Fujitora and Zoro's fight is not over yet, but they have stopped. The rest of the Seraphim were surrounded and killed by Luo and the others. The remaining members of the Knights of God were surrounded and suppressed by the awakened three calamities and the Flying Six under the leadership of Big Mom. Everything is finally settled. Just at this moment. Boom! A huge roar suddenly rang out. The body of Seraph Hawkeye exploded. Hawkeye finally completed his lore. This time the fight. World government and marine are defeated. But at this moment, something strange happened. Damn it! Teach! What are you guys doing? Marco was the first to react. Seeing the Blackbird pirates suddenly burst out with all their strength and attack violently, he was shocked and furious, and instantly pounced on Blackbird. Get lost, Marco! All you have to do is watch Laozi take away his abilities. Thief, ha ha ha! Laozi is the king of the world! Blackbird laughed wildly and arrogantly, completely stopping pretending. He waved his hands violently, creating a dark flowing barrier behind him to prevent Marco from approaching. At the same time, Badgers, Rain Shiryu, Lafayette, the king of Misrule, Depend, Poison Q, the wolf of San Juan. They all attacked Yun immediately. Madness! Charlotte's voice suddenly rang out. He appeared behind the king of evil government like a ghost, and grabbed his neck with his iron-like palm. He grabbed the king of evil government, who had merged into the ground, with his domineering aura. The evil king opened his eyes wide, unable to make a sound. The coolness has surged from the soles of my feet to the top of my head. After Charlotte defeated Cyborg, she had not taken any action. She had long been aware of the blatant tricks of the Blackbird pirates. He grabbed the king of evil government, rushed out suddenly, and kicked Dai Ping away. Shanks! Rain Sirius shouted in shock and anger. Red-haired Shanks stepped forward to block his attack. Damn it! Lafayette cursed loudly, but was forced back by the dragon that suddenly appeared. Swish! Suddenly, thunder struck from the sky. Enel shows up. Enel and Kizaru didn't know when to stop. Boom! The thunder pierced through the defenseless badgers, causing him to spit blood and fly backwards with a look of disbelief on his face. You guys! Blackbeard was horrified. I thought it was a perfect plan, but I didn't expect everyone was watching me. The Red Hares and the Revolutionary Army even joined forces. Why would they help Yun? Blackbeard was confused. At the same time, who came at a rapid speed, turned into an indescribable horrible monster. He suddenly stopped and looked at the two terrifying attacks coming at him from a distance, his hair standing on end. 2 Pluton attacks! Yim almost collapsed at this point. But his body expanded rapidly, as if something was trying to break out of it. The evil and terrifying atmosphere instantly enveloped the sea area. Boom! The roar of excitement and the explosion of destruction surrounded the sea surface as 2 Pluton attacks fell. The air pressure impact formed a concave vortex nearly 100 meters deep on the sea surface. In the storm, along with Im's screams, a more terrifying aura floated out. Future Island. The Blackbird pirates suddenly attacked. Charlotte, Shanks, Long, and Enel blocked them instantly and repelled most of them. The San Juan Wolf was blasted away by the big lady who descended from the sky. Big Mom finally killed the member of the Knights of God who had been fighting with her. Dooku looked at Hawkeye, who was blocking his way with a sword and had no chance to attack at all. They were not worthy enough to touch Yun. It is even more unworthy for Yun to take action. Kazan! What are you doing, you bastard? You betrayed Lousy! Blackbeard looked around the room and roared angrily. Akiji stood where he was, without making any move, and had no intention of responding to Blackbeard's words. He just looked up at Blackbeard indifferently. This made Blackbeard very angry. At the same time, I also felt a hint of fear. The Blackbeard pirates immediately became the target of public criticism. Thief, ha ha ha! You will regret this! Blackbeard seemed to be forcing a smile, but his dark eyes were gradually turning crazy. The dark matter instantly condensed in his hand, forming a dark vortex on his palm. Blackbeard aimed at Yun and suddenly unleashed the power of the dark fruit. Whoosh whoosh. The sea breeze caresses. Blackbeard's heart suddenly stopped, as if it had stopped beating at that moment. What happened? Lousy used the power of the dark fruit on him. Why didn't he react at all? There's no way he isn't a person with special abilities. Blackbeard's blood began to coagulate, and his whole body became cold. He discovered that the power of the dark fruit had no effect on Yun. Even from beginning to end, Yun had his back to them and did not look back once. This is impossible. Blackbeard couldn't believe what was happening. How could there be someone with special abilities that the dark fruit can't deal with? Captain, hurry up! Badgers urged urgently, blood spurting from his mouth. Enel's sudden attack caught him off guard. He looked at Blackbeard's condition and thought that Blackbeard had no ability to activate. This guy is too strong! Depen shouted in shock, urging Blackbeard to act quickly. The King of Evil was beaten so badly by Charlotte that he was completely disheartened. Even if there is a chance to control Yun now, there is no time to transfer his abilities. Some people around who knew the situation looked at Blackbeard as if he were a mentally retarded person. Jean Guo looked at this scene from afar and wanted to laugh. How dare you provoke that guy? Garp looked surprised, not understanding the Blackbeard pirates' actions. There are still such idiots? Jialanxin couldn't help but have question marks popping up in his mind. Use the dark fruit's power on Yun? If the dark fruit was useful, Rox wouldn't have been killed instantly. After so many years. I see this familiar scene again. Kaido grinned, looking at Blackbeard with eyes full of teasing and mockery. Blackbeard is crazy? Golden Lion Shiki widened his eyes and turned his head in disbelief to look at Blackbeard, who was performing alone. He never thought that after so many years, he would see someone trying to use the dark fruit against Yuan again. The shadow of Rox who used the dark fruit back then is still being used by Yoon. The guys who knew the inside story looked at Blackbeard with different eyes. This is just brain dead. Impossible! Blackbeard suddenly raised his head, revealing a ferocious look, and the darkness around him became thicker. He didn't believe that the ability of the dark fruit would not work. At this time, Shadow Rox slowly raised his head. The vortex in Blackbeard's hand suddenly grew larger, bursting out with a stronger attraction, and aimed at Yuan. Still no response. How could this happen? The dark fruit's ability has failed. Blackbeard finally couldn't help but roar, and the shock in his heart could no longer be concealed. By his eyelids twitched wildly. The dark fruit's ability has failed? Yushirya felt numb instantly. We fought with our lives at stake, and now you say the dark fruit's power is ineffective? So how do we deal with that monster? This isn't pure suicide. What? How could the ability of the dark fruit become ineffective? Lafayette was also confused for a moment. No wonder Blackbeard acted a little strange just now. The dark vortex was clearly aimed at Yuan, but nothing happened. He thought Blackbeard hadn't launched his attack. Turns out it didn't work. The members of the Blackbeard pirates felt as if the sky had fallen. Why? Blackbeard roared unwillingly. He placed all his ambitions on Yuan's unknown and mysterious abilities. As a result, the dark fruit is now ineffective. How to deal with Yoon? That terrifying guy, even 10 of me can't handle him. Blackbeard was completely devastated. Yuan, who had never looked back from beginning to end, turned his head for the first time to look at Blackbeard and frowned slightly, as if he was disturbed. His attention was just on Pluton's attack. Yim, who was hit, did not die. Instead, there were many powerful auras that appeared inexplicably. And this should be the last resort. Yun glanced at Blackbeard, then looked away. Blackbeard's hands were surrounded by darkness, and he wanted to attack Yuan at this moment, but the darkness in his hands just spread out. A dark shadow fell in front of him. Shadow Rox. For some reason, Blackbeard felt inexplicably frightened. The fluctuation of the dark fruit's power? He felt the fluctuation of the power of the dark fruit on Rox and was completely stunned. But Shadow Rox can't speak, and it's impossible for him to talk nonsense with Blackbeard. Whoosh! Shadow Rox attacks instantly. Rox's strength at his prime was fully unleashed, completely suppressing Blackbeard right from the start. Blackbeard, who was already confused, was no match for Rox even if he used his full strength. What's more, we are still in an extremely passive situation. So now, it's time for Yoon's team to clean up the battlefield. Rox. Zhang's eyes narrowed and his expression became gloomy. From the beginning to the end, Shadow Rox never took any action, and the world government and Marine were completely defeated. You know. Back in the Canyon of God, in order to kill Rox, the entire Knights of God and the Marines all joined forces, but they were unable to kill him for a while. The defeat was set in stone from the very beginning. Zhang shook his head and sighed. He had resigned himself to his fate and gave up resistance, waiting for Yun's final decision. He just wanted to give the Marines a chance to survive. What's going on with that Kazan guy? Kizaru turned into a yellow flash and landed next to Sengoku and Staff Officer Tsuru. He noticed that Akiji had turned against the Blackbeard pirates and was very surprised. Akiji's past performance was purely away from Marine. Has he always been undercover? That guy may be insisting on justice in his heart in his own way. Zhang said faintly. Borsellino, if anything happens later, you can leave if you can. Things here are already like this, there is no way to stay. Leave? Then what are you going to do? Kizaru looked gloomy and spoke in a heavy tone. I have a grudge against him, he will not let me go, but I want to fight for the Marine soldiers' chance to live. Yuan is not a bloodthirsty person, I hope he can let the Marine soldiers go, they are innocent. Zhang said in a firm tone. He was ready to die. Yun's power is unmatched. Accept your fate. I'm not going away. Kizaru suddenly looked up and spoke in a serious tone. Janwa glanced at him and sighed again. The battle continues. Impossible. How could this happen? What kind of monster is this? Blackbeard's shocking roar resounded. He was stunned by Shadow Rocks. The dark fruit ability is completely useless. In other words, the other party also has the ability of the dark fruit, and is even more powerful than him. This is completely unequal suppression. The other members of the Blackbeard Pirates had no chance to struggle and were being eliminated. And the other side. The Golden Lion Shiki and Jialanxing have been fighting fiercely. Shiki saw that the situation was almost settled. Conqueror's domineering power burst out, and the two swords in his hands flashed brightly. Ha ha! You guys have delayed lousy for a lot of time. The others had dealt with their opponents, and Golden Lion Shiki didn't want to delay any longer. Garanxing can be said to be the strongest force of the world government. If the Golden Lion had not accumulated experience over the years, it might have been defeated. But things are different now. Shiki the Golden Lion becomes braver and braver as the battle goes on, showing no fear at all. Come on. Even if I die, I will take you with me, a bastard. Jialanxing looked at the empty space around him, and with the determination to die, he burst out with his last bit of strength. The storm is coming. Conqueror's domineering aura wrapped around the blade in his hand. The powerful slashing blow was condensed, like twinkling stars, extremely dazzling. Ha! Die together? Just you? Golden Lion Shiki sneered. You're still far from that level. Boom! Sakura Ten and Wood Dead intertwined, entwining Conqueror's domineering aura to form the strongest slash. Two slashes burst out across the sky. Violent collision! However, none of their slashing strength is as strong as Charlotte's. In that case, let's not waste time. When Kaido saw the final showdown between Golden Lion Shiki and Jialanxing, he stopped delaying. Woohoo! Garp. Blue Dragon, 8 trigrams. Kaido laughed and transformed into a blue dragon, with black flames wrapped around his body and his blue scales flashing with a deep, dark and oppressive luster. Conqueror's domineering entanglement. He immediately used his strongest move, not wanting to waste any more time. The aura around Garp exploded, and Conqueror's domineering power burst to its strongest, condensing and wrapping around his fist. Kaido, I am not old yet. He raised his fist and blasted at the huge green dragon with even more explosive momentum. He showed no fear and just moved forward courageously. The two figures collided. The strong impact spread instantly. These two battles attracted everyone's attention. It's time to decide the winner. Luffy's eyes changed and he focused on the battle between Garp and Kaido. He also didn't know who would win. I hope nothing happens to the old man, Sabo said worriedly. Even if Garp defeats Kaido, there are still many enemies. How will Garp deal with it? He wouldn't just stand by and watch Garp get into trouble. What should we do then? Don't fight anymore. Dragon finished off Lafayette and looked worriedly at the battle in the sky. Just as Sabo thought, Long was most worried about Garp. It's over. Shanks killed Shiryu and looked up subconsciously. The members of the pirate group gathered around him, as well as the giant pirate group. They were the ones who took action just now and quickly killed Shiryu. The Blackbeard pirates were coming with force, but in a blink of an eye, only the struggling and desperate Blackbeard was left. Badgers is killed by Enel. The other members also died individually. The battle is really coming to an end. It's finally over. Today is the most thrilling day in my life. Vegapunk sat down on the ground and breathed a sigh of relief. His clones were behind him, all staring intently at the colliding figures in the sky. Boom! The first to lose was St. Jolin. The old man who was almost at the top of the pirate world's combat power was defeated by Shiki the Golden Lion. Golden Lion Shiki has been with Yoon for many years, and his strength has become stronger and stronger, surpassing that of St. Jolin. What's more, the two have different mentality. In the storm, Jialanxing fell like a kite with a broken string. The katana in his hand had been broken into 2 parts and was hit by the storm. Bang! Jialan Xing fell heavily to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood, and struggled to stand up. He was seriously injured, but he still stood up strong. Phew! The golden lion Shiki fell from the sky, his face slightly pale, and the confrontation just now seemed to consume a lot of money. But it won in the end. There's nothing more to say. Golden Lion Shiki sneered and was about to kill Saint Jialan. And just then, results appeared on the battlefield between Kaido and Garp, attracting the Golden Lion's attention. In the bursting crimson arc, the huge green dragon twisted its body, finally withstood the impact of its fist, and blasted Garp away. Garp dropped like a cannonball. The blue dragon transformed by Kaido instantly transformed into a beastman form, and punched the falling Garp, trying to finish Garp completely. Kaido! Luffy's pupils suddenly shrank, his hair turned white without warning, and white flames wrapped around him. He instantly activated the 5th level of awakening form. Along with the roar, he suddenly punched Kaido. Stop! Sabo also chose to take action. The ice freezes. Akiji condensed into ice and caught Garp's body, absorbing the impact and allowing Garp to fall safely to the ground. Not good. Kizaru turned into a yellow flash and flashed out instantly. They can ignore the world government guys, but they can't just watch Garp fall in front of them. Long clenched his fists tightly, struggling in his heart. Boom! Kaido and Luffy punched each other, and both of them stepped back at the same time. Who gave you permission to take action? The Pteranodon flew through the low altitude and blocked Sabo's attack. The gunfire pipe of Quinn's modified body is aimed at Akiji from a distance. Drought Jack blocked Kizaru's attack with his physical body. The dispute breaks out again. The situation is reversed again. Bang bang bang! Several crashes in succession. Kaido, Luffy, Sabo and the others landed one after another. Luffy, Sabo, Akiji, Kizaru stopped in front of Garp, and the Straw Hat Pirates quickly gathered together, looking ready. Kaido stretched out his hand to catch Hachiji, followed by Sanji and Fei Lu Bao behind him. Mamama continued the previous battle. The ants smiled and led the 3 generals and other children over. The battle that was supposed to be over suddenly caused waves. Guys who were in the same camp before. Change your identity in an instant. The atmosphere suddenly became extremely depressing. The sea breeze howled. The atmosphere is depressing. Big Mom led the pirate group and stood side by side with Kaido, staring coldly at Luffy and others. Ha! What a hassle. Golden Lion Shiki stopped, turned around and looked towards the battlefield, ready to attack at any time. He knew very well that Yuan's purpose in coming into the world this time was to eliminate all enemies. So now, those standing opposite him are all enemies, so he naturally will not hold back at all. Is it inevitable? Luo murmured softly. He was a little hesitant. He was supposed to fight Kaido and Big Mom together with Luffy. However, now he has to face Yuan, which makes him waver in his original thoughts. These guys are crazy. Kid frowned and had no intention of taking action. He was scared of being beaten. If you still provoke Kaido and Big Mom at this time, aren't you asking for trouble? Shanks sighed heavily. Shanks, what should we do? Donley asked. Luffy is our friend. The giants will not back down, Broggy said carelessly. Forcing it won't solve the problem. Dongli was sober for once and reminded him, signaling Broggy to lower his voice with his eyes. We still have to see his attitude. Shanks raised his head and looked at Yuan's back. He is more rational or calmer. What the situation is like depends entirely on a word from Yuan. Yuan can decide everything. Yuan had his back to the battlefield and was facing the distance. Seems to be waiting for something to come. The Poseidons and elephants around were all very quiet. Needless to say, the Poseidons had already submitted to Un. The Lord of the Elephants is dominated by the Emperor's will and has surpassed Joybo's orders. Damn these guys. Marco's face changed drastically. It was so hard to get Luffy and the others to be on the same front as Yun, but now a conflict is inevitable. You, leave me alone. Garp stood up and said firmly. He couldn't just watch everyone being wiped out in order to save him. Yun is invincible. Garp had no other emotion towards Yun except all. The whole battle. From beginning to end. Yun never really made a move. Killing Kid instantly is just a matter of thought. The next step is to help Kaido, Marco and others awaken, but that doesn't count as real action. Kill 5 elders instantly. Even the Blackbeard of the 4 emperors could not let Yun look at him straight in the eye. Is there anyone else in the world who is worthy of Yun's attack? No way. Grandpa. I won't let anyone hurt you. Luffy looked serious and had no intention of backing down. The same is true for Sob. How could they watch someone kill Garp in front of them? Senior Yun, I want to talk to you. A voice suddenly sounded. Long looked at Yun and asked respectfully. If we want to decide the final outcome, we have to let Yun speak. What did you want to talk about? Charlotte folded her arms, holding Blue Devil in front of the dragon, and asked. Long was slightly surprised. He looked at Charlotte standing in front of him and couldn't help but look up at Yun's back. Yun didn't respond. To be precise, I don't care. Charlotte saw Long's hesitation and couldn't help but smile. She shook her head and said, Just tell me if you have anything to say. I'm the boss. Charlotte is confident. There is absolutely nothing wrong with him being the boss. Because Yun is too lazy to care about these things on the sea. Charlotte's identity is special, and she can get help from everyone related to Yun. There is no need to say much about the Big Mom pirates. Kaido also values him very much. And there is support from Shiki the Golden Lion. Enel and Hawkeye will also help Charlotte. This identity is definitely that of a prince. Long immediately understood and said carefully, In the future, how do you plan to deal with the world government and the Marines? If necessary, the Revolutionary Army can help. The second half of the sentence expresses the attitude. The most important thing is the first half of his sentence. The world government and the Marines are indeed a bit tricky. Charlotte frowned, thought for a moment, and then said, It's up to them, and it's up to you. What do you mean by casually? Long looked puzzled, not understanding what Charlotte meant. Don't be nervous, we are not man-eating monsters. Charlotte noticed the change in Long's mood and comforted him with a smile. You are not cannibals, nor are you devils. But it is scarier than the devil. Long complained silently in his heart. For some reason, he was not as nervous as before. My father will not become the next world government to rule the world. What he has done is beyond your understanding. So don't treat him as an imaginary enemy. You, forget it. It's too depressing to describe it. Charlotte spoke eloquently and with an air of poise and ease. But you can treat me as your opponent. I will appear on this sea in the future. Everyone, please take care of me. Charlotte laughed loudly at everyone and clasped her fists tightly. If we kill these people here, what's the point in the future? Everyone was silent. This monster is also very tricky. Charlotte, what are you thinking? There's no need to let them go. Kaido reminded. This is a good opportunity to deal with all opponents. Should we let them go? Uncle Kaido, you have to fight for what you want. It would be so boring if everyone died now. Charlotte shrugged and said nonchalantly. Ha! Charlotte, you are still the one who knows how to act recklessly. The Golden Lion Shiki laughed. He knew that was Charlotte's style. But let's be clear, the celestial dragons will not exist in the future. If the world government and the Marines want to exist, it's up to you. Warring states, right? What you did just now was very courageous. I hope you can command the end of Marine and not let the world fall into chaos. Charlotte spoke eloquently and had the aura of a superior leader. Jean Gua opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything. He felt strange in his heart. He was actually taught a lesson by a young boy. But Charlotte's words also made Jean Gua understand one thing. He had a lot of grudges with Yun in the past. But after Yun slashed with that knife, all the grudges no longer existed. He was no longer on the same level as Yun, and Yun would not care about him. Are you really going to let them go? The ant frowned. There's nothing we can do. The world's foundation is still marine. If they're gone, the world will really be in chaos. As for the fight for hegemony, I'll fight them later, Charlotte said confidently. I was shocked to hear that I would have to fight Charlotte again in the future. Everyone's face turned bitter. If the Revolutionary Army wants to change the world, then do it your way. We won't interfere. Charlotte looked at Long and added, he has expressed it very clearly. Yuan would not pay attention to the world disputes and the struggles among various parties. As for what they want to do, it depends on their own abilities. Long was silent. Shanks and others were also silent. I was very surprised by what Charlotte said. If he doesn't want to dominate the world, then what does Yun want? Of course they don't know. What Yun wants to do is to control the world. Total control. Control from God's perspective. What's the point of all the forces fighting for it? When ants fight for supremacy, aren't they still ants? After all, the two sides are no longer on the same level. Marines like Sengoku and Garp feel even more incredible. Yuan didn't say a word from beginning to end. Charlotte can do whatever she wants with it. He is waiting for the final battle. Moreover, Yuan has no interest in the various forces in the world, or in being the king of the world. He touched the rules of the world. In the dark. Find a way to leave. Perhaps. After doing what he wants to do, he will leave. Leaving the pirate world. Where will it go? Yun's understanding of space has reached an incredible level, and he can do whatever he wants. Suddenly, Yuan looked down at the endless sea. It's finally here! You! Jialin Xing gnashed his teeth in extreme anger. If that's the case, why did the celestial dragons have to be sacrificed? Asshole! Not convinced? You Tianlong people are a cancer, just go on your way in peace. Golden Lion Shiki sneered, turned to look at the seriously injured Jialin Xing, and prepared to give him the final blow. After the death of Garen Xing, the only celestial dragon left was him who had not yet appeared. Long's eyes lit up. This seemed to be the best outcome. It is also an opportunity for the Revolutionary Army. Marco breathed a sigh of relief. Luffy was a little confused, but he slowly released the fifth gear state. Okay, that's it. Kaido waved his hand and came out of the awakened state. Naturally, the ant would have no objection. In this situation, if they continue to rely on Yuan's strength, they will be really useless. When everyone breathed a sigh of relief. When everyone thought it was over. A storm suddenly arose in the sea. The towering waves rose up without any warning, and the huge waves rushed towards Future Island. The Poseidons roared and screamed, fighting against the waves. The Elephant Lord roars loudly. Danger! The Elephant Master said there is great danger. Let us run for our lives. Momonosuke yelled with a pale face. He heard fear in the Elephant Lord's voice. Vegapunk just stood up, but was so frightened by the scene in front of him that he collapsed to the ground and said absent-mindedly, "The sea is swallowing up the world. The world is going to be destroyed. Why didn't you listen to me?" He still thought that the scene before him was caused by the use of ancient weapon, and he was already in despair. It's like waiting to die. What's going on? Sengoku and Garp, who had just breathed a sigh of relief, were all dumbfounded. The huge waves seemed to be able to destroy the entire island easily. With an indescribable terrifying force. The power of world destruction is coming. Is it Im's power? The Golden Lion Shiki was also shocked. This huge wave came too suddenly. Even Poseidon has no chance to resist. This is simply not a power that humans can exert. Only the unseen Im can achieve this level, but is Im really that strong? Shiki had some doubts in his heart. Playing tricks. Kaido roared angrily, swung the 8 trigrams and fired a thunderous 8 trigrams, blasting towards the waves. Want to use attack to disperse the waves. Otherwise, if the waves crash, few of them would survive. Boom! The waves exploded. But the thunderous 8 trigrams also disappeared into the sea in an instant. Thousands of waves. It's not just talk. It's really devastating. If Kaido were to be hit by this wave, his body wouldn't be able to withstand it. What? Something doesn't feel right about this wave. Kaido frowned, surprised. After all, it was a powerful attack, but it had no effect at all. Be careful. The ability to freeze fruit doesn't work. Akiji's expression changed drastically, and he shouted a reminder. Everyone is not calm anymore. This power seems a bit familiar. Charlotte rubbed her chin, her eyes suddenly darkened, she suddenly drew her sword, and unleashed all her strength to strike with a slash that could penetrate heaven and earth. Everyone present may not be able to resist this sword. The fierce and domineering slash slashed across the air. Intercept the huge waves. Just when the waves were about to be cut off, suddenly the sea water rushed in crazily and directly filled the gap, maintaining the integrity of the waves and the ultimate destructive power. No. Charlotte shook her head. Everyone was stunned. Charlotte's powerful attack has no impact at all? What's going on with this wave? Hateful. Luffy punched his fist and instantly activated the fifth gear. The arms inflate and turn into giant fists. Ape God's Spear. The fifth level trick suddenly burst out. Conqueror's dominance exploded. He is now becoming more and more skilled in awakening. The Ape God gun crashed down. After the explosion and roar, the huge waves were still not affected, but instead bombarded towards Future Island more quickly. Now I realize something was not good. I'm not really going to drown, am I? Buggy's eyes widened, confused. Ha ha. Let's die here together with me. You will all be buried with me. Jialan Xing seemed to have thought of something and laughed happily and crazily. Asshole guy. Golden Lion Shiki cursed, too lazy to pay attention to this dying old man. Warring States glanced at St. Jialan, then withdrew his gaze and said quickly, Everyone, please work together to break up this wave, otherwise we may all die. The situation is critical. They forgot about Yoon for a while and only thought about saving themselves. Fire Fist. Sabo takes action. Marco followed. Hawkeye, Crocodile, and Jinbei all concentrated their attack methods. Luffy broke out again, Zoro, Sanji, Frankie, the 9 heroes of Red Sky. Luo, Kid, 3 disasters, 3 generals, Fei Lu Bao. Long and various cadres of the Revolutionary Army. Shanks and all his officers. Torai and Bragi lead the giant pirates. Sengoku, Garp, Akiji, Kizaru, Fujitora and other marines. Lin Lin. Coming. Kaido and Big Mom used their combined attack skills in perfect harmony. The Golden Lion also took action. Charlotte took a deep breath, and suddenly her blood boiled up again. In the sea, almost all the powerful men who are currently ranked are gathered here. What's even more terrifying is the dozens of people take action at the same time. All unleash their strongest attacks, just to contend with that wave full of inexplicable destruction. The scene is so spectacular. In front of the huge waves, many figures from different camps activate their own unique skills. Brilliant attacks flicker and rise. It exploded. Boom! Landing on the waves one after another. The waves shook. It is like a giant beast awakening from the deep sea, capable of swallowing everything. Those terrifying attacks were all slowly consumed by the waves and dissipated. All the strong men attack with all their might, like water off a duck's back. At this moment, people were dumbfounded. Wow! In the turbulent waves after the attack, a dozen figures that looked like monsters suddenly appeared. A group of indescribable monster forms. Their red outlined eyes are exactly the same as the one that appeared before. Those who disobey the sea will die here. The indifferent voice of judgment resounded. More magnificent than the sound of the shaking waves. Everybody, take action! Various powerful attacks burst out at the same time. But they were unable to stop the world-destroying wave. And in this case, a group of mysterious strong men suddenly broke through the waves and appeared in front of everyone. It was like a messenger from hell. Instantly, everyone felt heavy-hearted and had a bad premonition. Lord Im. When Jialan Xing saw one of the figures, he roared with all his might. Yim is finally here! The celestial dragons haven't lost yet! He just had this thought. Puff! The knife flashed and slashed down. Jialan Sheng's head fell to the ground like a ball, rolling around. Only when it stopped did the blood begin to gush out wildly. Jialan Sheng was killed by a single blow when he was halfway excited. Scream, scream! The golden lion Shiki cursed and looked unhappy. I was too lazy to kill Jialan Sheng just now, but his screaming was really annoying. This is just a small episode in the general trend. And Yim obviously didn't care about the death of Jialan Sheng. He only had eyes for Yun. Kasa Yun. We meet again. You will definitely die this time. The indescribable monster that Yim transformed into took a step forward, and his voice was like the roar of thunder, stirring up power. I'm tired of hearing this kind of thing, Yun said calmly. Even with the appearance of such a group of monsters, there was still not a ripple in his heart. It seems that all the people who said these words are about to die. There seemed to be a hint of smile in the quiet voice. Yun was completely relaxed. What exactly are they? Zhang Guo's confused voice suddenly sounded. The legendary Yim, the figure on the Void Throne, turned out to be this kind of monster? And what are the other unspeakable monsters? Are they the ones who want to destroy the world? Zhang Guo now feels his mind is very confused. My own cognition was completely overturned. The world government that I had been serving suddenly became a joke. The true face of the celestial dragons, so disappointing. Why are you destroying the world? Garp shouted coldly. This moment. Everyone was hostile to him and the people around him. Ants. Imu lowered his head suddenly and shouted downwards. Sengoku and Garp were still unworthy of speaking in front of him. A figure walked out from beside Yim and said in a cold voice, We are the king who founded Mary Geos. You actually want to overthrow our rule, then destroy the world along with you. We will re-establish the order that belongs to us. His tone was very indifferent. It seems like we are just playing house. To re-establish the order of their rule would mean destroying the world, which would mean the death of countless lives. It is a disaster for mankind. Sengoku and Garp felt a chill in their hearts. They finally realized how naive they had been. And how ridiculous are the decisions made by these high and mighty rulers. You are the guys who established the rule of the celestial dragons? The kings of the 20 countries in the legend? Stop bullshitting, you can't even count, right? Shiki the golden lion completely let himself go, cursing and pointing his finger at the sky. Figures began to count one by one. 13. There are only 13 of us. Why are you pretending to be such a fool? As if stimulated by the scene of destruction, the golden lion Shiki kept swearing and cursing. Presumptuous! A figure shouted angrily. F*CKU. Straw Hat Boy, count how many of them there are. Shiki the golden lion gestured to Luffy. At this time, Luffy's train of thought actually followed the golden lion. Huh! Are there really 13? Luffy said blankly, with some confusion in his tone. Luffy, is this the time to care about how many people there are? Usopp was almost on the verge of collapse. You really did check. Nami held her forehead in her hand, speechless. Being disturbed like this, Yim and the others above were no longer calm. Damn you, Yun! You actually attacked with Pluton. If it weren't for blocking Pluton's attack, how could we have lost 7 people? Yim roared angrily, his harsh voice filled with cold, murderous intent. On his way here, he was suddenly locked by Pluton. Moreover, 2 attacks broke out at the same time. If he relied on his own strength, he would surely die. But at the critical moment, all 20 ancient kings arrived. However, they still had to sacrifice 7 people to resist Pluton's terrorist attack. Compared to the way Yun destroyed Uranus' attack, the difference is obvious. Yun destroyed Uranus's offensive with a wave of his hand. If there really were 2 Uranus attacking at the same time, it would at most be a matter of waving one more hand. But Imu and his group lost 7 people. So you guys are going to die too, Yun said calmly. It's you. You disturbed our sleep. We took turns waking up to maintain our rule, but we changed all our plans because of you. You have to pay the price for this. You've wasted our lives." Several figures roared in frustration, full of anger towards Yuan. From their conversation, more information was revealed. None of the 20 kings are dead, and are still in a sleeping state. Sable murmured in shock, finding it unbelievable. So they all lived for hundreds of years. That is to say, sleeping will keep them alive. But for the sake of ruling, only one person wakes up at a time to rule Marihoa, just to live longer and prolong their rule longer. Long's eyes flickered and he found this is the biggest secret. To them, this was nothing short of a fantasy and unbelievable. The celestial dragons actually have this kind of method. If it weren't for Yun's sudden appearance, how could the revolutionary army be able to fight against these almost immortal monsters? This moment, Long suddenly felt somewhat relieved. Damn it! You've lived for so long, you deserve to die. Shiki the Golden Lion cursed. Do you want Lousy to have someone dig a big hole for you? Asshole. A figure couldn't stand Shiki any longer and suddenly attacked, launching a dark attack like thunder. Yoon raised his palm. Buzz! The sky freezes. The dark attack that looked like thunder suddenly stopped in midair without any warning. It's as if time and space have stopped. What? What kind of ability do you have? Something's wrong. He has a power fluctuation that can kill us. Finally, someone noticed something was wrong. Suddenly, 13 glances appeared. 26 pairs of eyes with flashing red outlines were all staring at Yun. Shock, surprise, and unbelievability all mixed together. Only when they truly felt the fluctuations of Yun's power did they discover the mystery. Possessing the will to obliterate their existence. How so? He didn't have this kind of power back then. Yun was horrified and most shocked. Only he and Un had fought each other, but he obviously ended up losing, so he used Uranus to kill Un. I thought it was successful. As a result, Yun, who had been dormant for 40 years, suddenly reappeared. And this time, everything is different now. Yun seems to have mastered the ability they rely on for survival. This is the power that this world should have. How is this possible? No one can do it except Joyboy's power as the sun god. Im was shocked. The figures who appeared with him were all shocked by this discovery. Uranus did not kill Yun. How can we kill you now? Let the world kill him? The people below finally remembered that they still had Yun to rely on. From beginning to end, Yun did not make any move. Was it just to wait for this moment? Everyone couldn't help but speculate. Luffy felt it the strongest. He felt the power surging in his body, yet he also had a feeling of surrender. It seemed that even the power of the sun god did not dare to fight against Yun. Who are you? How did you gain such power? Yim shouted. He was already starting to panic. Those who live forever fear death the most. The 7 deaths were the greatest loss they could bear. If the number of personnel were to decrease again, the time they had spent sleeping would be irreparable, making it impossible for them to achieve eternal life. I'm too lazy to talk nonsense. I've been waiting for so long, I'm itching to do it. Yuan's body became more upright, and there was even a hint of smile on the corner of his mouth. The attack that he controlled in midair slowly dissipated. And without any warning, the huge waves that swallowed everything began to sink into the sea again. The Emperor's will is coming! Nothing in the world dares to disobey. An extremely deep purple light was glowing all over Yuan's body. The illusory, invisible shadow quietly spread and spread to the entire world. Clearly nothing can be seen with the naked eye. But everyone has a sense in their hearts, that is, they have been shrouded in shadow. Not just them. The shadow quietly enveloped the entire world. The waves are receding. Marco shouted, and the huge rock hanging in his heart fell away. Yun can actually do it. Zhang Guo was shocked and found it unbelievable. I already thought of Yun as a terrible person. But I never thought that Yun would be so terrifying. The huge waves that no one could resist even if they joined together, Yun just raised his hand to stop them. Incredible power, this guy Yun is simply not a human. Kaido murmured in a daze. He knew that he couldn't surpass Yuan, but he never thought the gap between them would be so huge. My God! Someone murmured. Like a calm stone, it stirred up huge waves in everyone's heart. God! It must be God, otherwise how could he possess such incredible power? Usopp's voice trembled. Even the atheist Zoro rarely agrees with Usopp's statement. You are truly a god. Enel, who once considered himself a god, sincerely admired him and vowed never to regard himself as a god again. Compared with Yuan, he is simply a clown. Oh my God! He really did it. God? Joyboy's power is the power of the sun god. Is there another god in the world who can change the world? Vegapunk, waking up from despair, murmured in shock. He acknowledged that Yuan was powerful, but he could not imagine how such a divine power could appear in the world. Sun god, Joey boy. This is a being stronger than him. Ha! I knew you could do it. The golden lion Shiki laughed. He just cursed wildly because, firstly, he thought that Yuan would take action to solve this problem, and secondly, he made the worst-case scenario plan. Even if Yuan couldn't solve it, he had to curse to his heart's content. As a result, Yuan never disappoints. Teacher. Hawkeye looked fanatical. Yuan is the most perfect existence in his heart. An absolute idol. It's too horrible. If my father saw this scene, he would also find it unbelievable. Marco's eyes were slightly dull. He suddenly felt fortunate that he had saved Luffy and the others from disaster. This kind of power can easily dissolve the power to destroy the world, then it can definitely burst out with the power to destroy the world. Yuan is a god that is completely unmatched. All the Poseidons worshipped Yuan. Even the elephant owner bowed his head in submission to show his respect. What a magical power, Luffy said blankly. He was a little confused now, and somehow felt that he could also possess this kind of power, but it was impossible for him to be as strong as Yuan. This scene shocked everyone, yet everyone breathed a sigh of relief. At least, I don't have to perish along with the world. Yuan was even their savior. What are you doing? Yin was shocked and angry, completely confused. The waves behind him that were controlled by the world's power actually subsided? How is this possible? What's going on? The tsunami that destroyed the world cannot be stopped. Kill him. Can't let him change this. The other kings roared loudly. They couldn't just watch Yuan destroy them completely. Boom! At the same time, they all exploded. Unprecedented powerful attacks bombarded Yuan together. Clang! The wheel of reincarnation is unsheathed. Yuan grasped the long-lost hilt of the knife and swung it forward. Crash! Time and space are shattered. The attack that was enough to suppress all the powerful men in the sea was easily destroyed by this sword. It was like a puff of smoke came and Yuan blew it away. Mysterious and powerful. Invincible God! The peerless Emperor! The Shadow Emperor ascends to the world. The shadow enveloped the entire world, turning it all into the king's land. At this moment, Shadowlands, arrival! Buzz. Strange energy spreads, and infinite will covers the entire world. Everyone worships. East Sea, West Blue, North Blue, South Blue. 10,000-meter underwater world. Sky Island. The celestial dragon of Mary Geos. Fish in the ocean, animals on land. All living things couldn't help but kneel down and worship. The Shadow Emperor reigns over the world. The pirate world has completely turned into a kingdom of shadows. This is the world of Yuan. Every blade of grass and every tree is under the control of his will. It is the power of the Creator that far exceeds the will of the world and the free will of the Sun God. On the future island, Kaido, Big Mom, Golden Lion, Sengoku, Garp, Shanks, all the strong ones can't help but worship him. Even Luffy couldn't resist this power. That is a being far above the Sun God, controlling the world and the Sun God. All beings worship. The only one in the world. Yuan did it. Only he can do it. Integrate the world, master the power of the realm, and trigger heaven defying. You successfully comprehend the realm channel and can establish a realm anchor point and descend into other realms. A long-lost reminder tone sounded in Yuan's mind. Yuan has done everything to perfection. After years of precipitation and accumulation, he controls the world with his own power and stands above everything. The original power of the worlds will collapse at this moment. The illusory and invisible stream of light turned into countless fragments and merged into the Shadow Kingdom. The world worships. The gods are coming. Yun transformed into the Shadow Emperor of Supreme Kamui, integrating the power of shadow into every corner of the pirate world, transforming the source of its power into his own shadow power, and completely turning the entire world into his own Shadow Kingdom. The world seemed to be in a storm. Yet it seemed as if only a moment had passed. The original will of the world is shattered. Or say, obliterated. It was wiped out by the power of the Shadow Emperor. The remaining fragments of willpower became a symbol of strength, scattered all over the world: deep sea, high mountains, plains, thatched houses, castles in the air, and even garbage dumps. The fragments of willpower were scattered wherever they might appear, waiting for the search for the destined one. Those who obtain these remaining fragments of willpower can gradually embark on a path similar to Juboi, breaking their limits and becoming powerful enough to rival the sun god Nika. But this takes a lot of time. Among the people on the sea right now, only Charlotte and Luffy have realized the power of will. But even if there are latecomers, even if there are 10 or 20 people with power similar to Nika, they will not be able to shake Yun's throne as emperor. He already has absolute control over the world. Creator! No need for newcomers to say more, just worship. The will of the world collapses. One of the bright lights clearly penetrated into Charlotte's body. This was part of Yuan's gift. But those who were most affected were the former kings. They obeyed the will of the world, but now the will of the world on which they depended for survival is dead. No, impossible. His power is gone. How could this happen? He will never disappear. Ah, our power has also disappeared. No, don't. The group of guys who attacked Yuan screamed in despair and struggled to escape. In the end, it turned to ashes in an unknown form. The utmost nothingness. Manifesting thousands. Everything depends on Yuan's thoughts. The wind stopped. The waves stopped. The clouds have dissipated. The light shines. Yun's battle is over. Gurgle. The sound of swallowing saliva is particularly clear. They disappeared. A nervous voice broke the silence first. Then, the figures below raised their heads in disbelief, looking at the sky as if nothing had happened, and were so shocked that they were speechless for a moment. The sudden change caught everyone off guard. What on earth is going on? Shanks looked confused, still unable to believe that the legends that had ruled the world for hundreds of years had completely disappeared like this. It's hard for anyone to accept. Even if you see it with your own eyes, it is hard to accept. It's really unbelievable. Not to mention Shanks, even Golden Lion, Shiki, and Kaido were confused. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, who would have thought that there was such a secret hidden in the world? The celestial dragons no longer exist. Sengoku felt the pressure weaken, slowly stood up, and whispered, "From now on, it will be the beginning of the new world. I don't know what Yun wants to do." The voice sounded somewhat melancholy. 40 years. 800 years. The 800 years of rule by the Tianlong people ended at this moment. Warring States recalled in his mind the first time he met Yun. He was obviously a young boy, but he was extremely talented. Despite the huge gap in strength, he even used Ba Tang but did not kill him. As a result, by the time Yun appeared in the sea for the second time, he was already invincible. Fight to become famous. Invincible in one battle. He appeared out of nowhere, as if he was the one to destroy the celestial dragons. At this time, the level of consciousness of the Warring States period was still stuck on the issue of the rule of the Tianlong people, and they were not aware of other changes. If what Charlotte said is true, from now on, it will be a fight between us. Sengoku, old man, what do you say? I think Marine has been disbanded. Long suddenly interjected from the side. Sengoku glared. Garp was also blowing his beard and staring, rolling up his sleeves to get started. In the sky, Yoon turned around and looked at the people below. Not surprisingly, they will be the top players in the world in the future. There are many fragments of power scattered in this world. This is your chance. Whoever can get it will hopefully have stronger power. Maybe you can't understand. In short, it is Joiba's power. Whatever you do, I will not interfere with you. I will give you at most 10 years to bring the world back into balance. By then, I will give you the ones who are still alive. New opportunities. Yoon's voice was calm and full of unquestionable majesty. Hearing Yoon's words, everyone was shocked. What an opportunity to reach Joy Boy's power! Kaido's eyes suddenly lit up, and he thought thoughtfully. Then how can I have your power? He originally thought Joey Boy was very powerful, but he turned around and looked at Luffy and then at Yoon. They were not on the same level at all. Ha ha ha, Uncle Kaido, you should just dream. Charlotte couldn't help but smile and said. He felt the gestation of power in his body. Although it was very weak, as long as he followed the direction taught by Yoon, he would surely take a crucial step one day. At this point, Charlotte was ahead of everyone from the start. Although Luffy inherited Joey Boy's power, Charlotte is not much worse than him. You kid! Laozi will definitely deal with you personally in the future. Kaido was not annoyed, but spoke directly. His words were already acknowledgement that he and Charlotte would be competitors in the future. Yoon obviously gave them a new battlefield. Kaido will naturally not settle for the status quo, and Charlotte has also stepped out, so competition is inevitable. But this competition is destined to be weak. They can't be enemies, so Kaido will naturally not argue with Charlotte on key matters. Mama Kaido, what nonsense are you talking about? All my forces will obey Charlotte's orders. Your beast pirates no longer even have their base camp. Come and join Charlotte as soon as possible. The ant laughed heartily. His words meant that he wanted to hand over the Big Mom pirates to Charlotte. He really doesn't want to get involved. Then, there is still hope for Marine. Sengoku's eyes flashed, and he made a judgment on the situation. So, isn't the big secret treasure so weak? Buggy woke up and found that the world seemed to have suddenly changed. What the teacher means is a chance for everyone. The eagle eyes flashed with fighting spirit and showed their sharpness. Crocodile was thoughtful behind him, but also looking forward to it. Who wouldn't be moved by the power someone talks about? Jia ha ha! In this way, the world becomes interesting again. Golden Lion Shiki laughed and said with an arrogant smile. You bastards, don't even think about arguing with Laozi. Yuan's words made everyone's mind active. Who wouldn't want to have power comparable to Joy Boy? The most important thing is that the man is so powerful that he cannot be resisted, if he allows it. However, Yuan's actions made it even more difficult to figure out what he was thinking. No one knows his purpose. You're already so powerful, why don't you want to rule the world? No matter how hard it is to figure out, no one would be stupid enough to ask Yuan this question. Yuan suddenly raised his head, his eyes falling into the eternal void. The spatial anchor point he established through the power of space gradually became clearer, and he had already sensed the location of another world. However, I can only sense it, but cannot see the situation inside the world. Why do I feel like there is an invasion from foreign demons? Yuan felt a strange feeling in his heart. It seems that ever since I knew that I could cross over to other worlds, I inevitably had a desire to conquer them. The pirate world has lost its challenge. Although Yuan's last battle was only at the level of will, clearing the original power of the world and replacing it with his own shadow power, it looked like he didn't make any move. In fact, Yuan possesses all the devil fruit powers in the pirate world. The essence of power is nothing more than the 5 elements, light and darkness, time and space. Or changes in the animal system and paramecia. The best in one. The 3-color domineering has completely surpassed the essence of domineering. And the physical fitness is moving towards an incredible level. The indestructibility of the body is only one aspect. Immortality and rebirth through dripping blood are the ultimate goal. Yuan doesn't just pursue strength. If possible, he wants to create a true method of immortality. Especially now that he can leave the pirate world and reach other worlds, Yuan's mind has become more active. I wonder what world this first spatial anchor point will be. It would be best if it is a completely new power system, so that I can use the cultivation methods of more worlds to prove the arc of longevity. Yuan's eyes flickered, and he suddenly couldn't wait to travel through space and reach the unknown world outside of space. Oon, what's wrong? What are you going to do with this ancient weapon? And Uranus from Marihoa? Auntie asked Oon. These ancient weapons are enough to change the situation of the battle between them. Ancient weapon. Yuan thought for a moment, then gave the order. Leave Pluton to the Poseidon class and place it in the deep sea. No one is allowed to spy on it. The Poseidons chirped in unison in response to the Emperor's order. I will hide Uranus of Mary Geos in the Elephant Lord. Anyone who dares to explore will be killed without mercy. The Elephant Master growled and followed the order. The restrictions that Joyboy had placed on him had been removed, and now he was at the mercy of Yuan. Moreover, the elephant owner was also changing, and his consciousness was becoming clearer and clearer. Not long after, the Poseidons dragged Noah's Ark, carrying 3 Pluton warships, into the unknown deep sea. Even if someone wanted to get Pluton, entering the Poseidon-type main battlefield in the deep sea would be seeking death. The people didn't even see what Uranus looked like, nor did they know where Oon had placed Uranus on the elephant. However, it was conceivable that if someone really touched Uranus, then they would be killed by the elephant. Killing. After doing all this, there is no need for Yuan to handle the rest. The world is handed over to you. Yuan looked down at everyone and spoke slowly. Ah? Dad, what do you mean? Why do I feel like you are saying goodbye? Charlotte realized something was wrong and asked quickly. I'm going to be gone for a while. You're leaving? Where to? The world is so small, haven't you traveled all over it? Golden Lion Shiki said subconsciously, and suddenly felt that something was not right. Yuan looked up, gazed into the distance and said, I want to leave this world and go to another world. Leaving this world and going to another world, are you going to die? Luffy tilted his head, looking puzzled but serious. Nami clenched her fists secretly. Don't talk nonsense, you guy! How can you tell that you are about to die? If you talk like that, you are about to die. Nami cursed in her mind and quickly stopped Luffy from talking nonsense. Leave this world! At this moment, everyone's heart was shocked. They suddenly realized something and found it unbelievable, but they had to believe it. Sengoku, Garp, Shanks, Long and the others finally understood why Yoon had no interest in this world. His goal is not this world at all. Although they also found it incredible, they no longer doubted it. Being unable to touch it did not mean it did not exist. It only proved that they were still too weak. It sounds incredible, Yuan, take Laozi with you. If there is any danger, Laozi can help you. Kaido said excitedly. It seems more interesting to go out than to stay here. Ha ha ha, Yuan, why didn't you tell me before that Laozi also wants to go with you? The Golden Lion Shiki laughed and said, many people had an urge to follow Yuan and leave. Compared to this world, they want to explore the unknown more. Don't be afraid even if there is danger. Sengoku and Garp's eyes lit up. If all the pirates followed Yun, wouldn't the world be peaceful? Long's eyes lit up. If these guys left, the revolutionary army would be able to develop better. Then, Zhang-Gua, Garp, and Long looked at each other with a sense of something, and they could see what was in each other's mind, and there was a lot of hostility. But at this moment, Yuan said, forget it, you guys stay here and improve your strength. I'm not sure what the unknown world will be like. I'll go take a look first. If possible, I'll find a chance to take you away. If any of you want to see the bigger world, then practice hard. The weak are not worthy to follow in my footsteps. The arrogant and domineering aura of the Supreme Leader was revealed, and there was silence below. Whether they agree or not, they are all Yun's subjects. The reason why Yuan did not start a massacre was, firstly, that it was unnecessary, and secondly, these guys could all be powerful warriors who had conquered all realms and could be used in the future. Buzz. A strange power lingers around Yun. He stopped talking nonsense. Amid the stunned, bewildered and shocked gazes of the crowd, the figure disappeared into thin air. Disappear without a trace. But the whole world is still Yun's world. The void space emanated mysterious fluctuations, the two worlds were suddenly connected. New world, don't let me down. Yun felt the huge pressure around him, his expression tense, and he was extremely cautious. Even he didn't dare to be careless with this kind of shuttling. But the tearing and oppressive feeling did not last long. Yun suddenly felt his surroundings loosen up, and a completely different force appeared in his perception. The original power of the new world. It seems that it is not as powerful as the pirate world. A faint voice. Suddenly it sounded from the void. In the deep night, the flames of battle gradually died down. There was dead silence on the gray earth. There is a sense of decay after the battle. The nameless terror in the surroundings showed that the battle was far from over. The boy with dark red hair and red eyes was lying on the ground, breathing with a hint of pain, wearing a gray-green haori. Above his head, a figure with alternating blonde and red hair squatted down and guided the young man lying on the ground to stop the bleeding and stabilize his injuries. Its eyes are not normal black, but a mixture of yellow and red. Bang! Suddenly, accompanied by a dull sound, smoke and dust suddenly surged up. A familiar yet disgusting aura appeared. They both noticed. Rengo Kakaijuro turned around abruptly, grasped the hilt of the sword at his waist with his hands, and his relaxed body tensed up again, his face solemn. The smoke cleared, revealing a human figure. The short peach-colored hair, golden eyes, and pale skin color do not resemble that of a human at all, and look inexplicably terrifying. The words upper rank and 3 are engraved in the golden pupils. He had shocking blue tattoos on his body, his purple shirt fluttered in the wind, and rosary beads hung on his ankles, giving him an extremely oppressive aura. Upper 3. Why are you here? Tanjiro, who had just fallen to the ground wounded after a brutal battle, looked shocked and his voice was full of disbelief. The two sides met without greeting each other. The peach-haired, golden-eyed upper rank 3 narrowed his eyes slightly, emitting a cold, murderous intent. The next moment, he suddenly rushed out and swung his fist at Tanjiro on the ground. Breathing of fire, type 2. Rengo Kakaijuro drew his sword and shouted softly. Phew! The blazing flames rose and danced, forming a round wheel shape, and slashed out fiercely. Rising sun! Laugh! The light from the sun blade directly cut through upper rank 3's arm, forcing him to tap his feet and take several steps back. His left arm was split in half along the fingers, looking extremely bloody and terrifying. But his expression remained unchanged, as if he felt no pain. He shook his arm that was broken in half, and there was even a hint of a smile on the corner of his mouth. What a nice knife! The words fell. He shook his arm violently, and the two broken halves strangely merged together. In perfect condition. The knife is a good one, but his ability is even more bizarre. He regenerates very quickly. This oppressive feeling and strong ghost aura, this is the upper string. Rengo Kakaijuro's heart was heavy. He stared coldly at upper rank 3 and said, I don't understand why you would attack the injured first. Because I think he will prevent me from talking to you, that's all. Upper 3 spoke indifferently, without any emotional change in his tone. Rengo Kakaijuro frowned. What can I say to you? Their identities are destined to be a life-and-death situation. Demon Slayer Core. Ghost. Only one can survive. Although this is the first time we meet, I feel extremely disgusted with you as soon as I see you. Rengo Kakaijuro said in a cold voice with a serious expression. Is that so? Upper 3 raised the corner of his mouth. I also hate those weak humans. Seeing useless people makes me feel sick. His disgust for humanity is undisguised. It seems that you and I have completely different standards for the value of things. Rengo Kakaijuro held the knife in both hands, ready for battle. Then let me give you a wonderful suggestion. Would you like to join us and become a ghost? Upper 3 slowly raised his arms in an invitation. But what I got in return was an unhesitating rejection. Of course not. Upper 3's eyes widened so that the upper 3 and 3 could be seen clearly, and the fine lines in his pupils were very eye-catching. There was a hint of undisguised hostility and murderous intent in his tone. I knew at a glance that you were the pillar of that power, right? Your fighting spirit has been tempered through thousands of trials and tribulations, and is close to the highest realm. It seems that today, I can kill a powerful pillar. I am the flame pillar of the 9 pillars. Name, Rengoku Kaijuro. Rengoku Kaijuro showed no fear. Upper 3 spoke calmly. Kaijuro, let me tell you why you are just one step away from reaching the highest realm. Because you are human. Because you're going to get older. Because you will die. Become a ghost, Kaijuro. He once again extended what he considered to be a very sincere invitation. That way, whether it's 100 years or 200 years, you can continue to practice, and you will become stronger. Tanjiro, who was standing by, was already trembling with fear and confusion. Of all the demons I've come into contact with, his scent is the closest to Muzan. I must go over to support Mr. Rengoku. He struggled to get up. But the serious injuries don't seem to allow it. Decline, age, and die. It is the beauty that only creatures like humans, whose lives are short, have. It is precisely because humans age and die normally that they are so lovable and noble. The so-called strong is not an adjective that can only be applied to the body. This boy is not weak at all, don't insult him. How many times do I have to say this? You and I have completely different values. No matter how many reasons you give me, I will never become a ghost. Rengoku Kaijuro's tone was solemn and extremely serious. The eyes of Upper 3 narrowed into a dangerous arc. Yeah? Bang! The ground beneath his feet collapsed and power exploded from his body. The ritual begins! A hexagonal snowflake pattern instantly formed beneath his feet, flowing with a gorgeous, deep red luster. Upper 3 stopped talking nonsense and took action directly. Destroy the killing needle! Since you don't want to be a ghost, you should be killed. The words fell. A pale-skinned figure suddenly rushed out and engaged in battle with Rengoku Kaijuro, who was holding the Nichiren sword. The battle between the two sides raised up smoke and dust, making it even more difficult for Tanjiro, who could not see the movements clearly, to judge the situation. Among the pillars I have killed so far, none of them are flame pillars, and no one has agreed to my invitation. Upper rank 3 gradually became excited as the battle went on. He pursues the highest realm of martial arts and enjoys fighting very much. The two figures changed and the battle became more intense. But due to the characteristics of ghosts, except for the injuries caused by decapitation, all other injuries can be repaired quickly, which is also the most difficult point to deal with. Tanjiro, who was watching the battle, suddenly looked at him blankly and said, "Who is that?" At some point, a black-haired young man appeared on the battlefield. He was dressed very simply, with an unknown knife hanging from his waist, and looked like an ordinary person. But Tanjiro couldn't help but feel a greater sense of fear and awe in his heart. The emotions were far more intense than when he met Upper 3. Even surpassing Muzan Kibutsuji. This thought made Tanjiro break out in a cold sweat. Just as he was about to open his mouth to remind Rengoku Kaijuro, the two people fighting in the field suddenly noticed that figure, and their movements paused, subconsciously keeping their distance. Be extremely vigilant against the newcomers.